Hello and welcome back to a brand new episode of the Pick a Side podcast. My name is Joel Moran and I'm here with River Brown, Andrew Velez, and Joe Dehls. And this is now episode 429. And on this episode, we have some special guests, Carson and Logan from NerdSesh, on the show to talk shop with us today. Fellas, how you guys doing? I'll start with you, Carson.
Fantastic, man. Super happy to be here. We've been talking about doing this for a while. We've had you guys on our show to do some trivia. I was just talking to Riv yesterday on Riv Academy, or maybe that's not out yet. Maybe that's in the future for you guys, but stay tuned in for that. But very, very happy to be here.
Secrets, like in the vault.
Secret.
It's funny you say that. I spoiled that on the Fantasy Reaction. So if you watch the Fantasy Reaction, you know Riv Academy's coming out.
Yeah, the audience knows that River Academy has been locked in indeed. Logan, how are you doing?
It's a pleasure to be here, gentlemen.
Okay.
I'm still working over this Browns loss that Myles Garrett handed me last night, but I'll be all right.
Best in the world, he said.
Streets of
Better
Sin
than
and Myles
TJ, he
Garrett.
said. I did not know TJ Watt was the only player to lead the league in sacks 3 times.
The more you know.
Kind of crazy.
I would have guessed for sure there was other legends that did that. When I saw that stat, I was like, I can't believe he's the only one.
Don't get me
Saying
started,
Myles
bro.
Garrett's the best edge rusher in the league now.
I would have thought J.J. Watt did it.
JJ did have 2 20-sack seasons.
Yeah,
I think it was Justin Houston, right? Facts.
Gastineau did it twice. I think Reggie did it twice.
Riv, Drew, Dehls, how you guys doing?
I'm doing quite excellent. Although we all lost, that is good for the Pick'ems because I'm still in first place. And it's funny because when we spoke about it on the last episode, I didn't get a chance to fully immerse myself. One sec, because I have to take this tour away. I should have just took it away before. Stop. No.
Wow.
Man.
Powerful.
That's good. That's good parenting, guys.
That is good.
She just gave it right to me. Honestly, I was shocked. Where should I start? You should just ask me how am I doing? Do you want to do that? Just keep on going. We just keep shooting it.
Let's just skip to Dehls. Dehls, how are you doing?
I wasn't even thinking of cutting that part. You were talking about being first place in the Pick'em.
I didn't even get a chance to brag on the last episode because we really didn't talk about the picks. And I was like, you know what? I'll wait for the Pick'ems, but it's calm. There's really not much to brag about because there's a lot to go. But I like where we started to where we're at right now. There was a nice hill to climb. And right now we got to the mountaintop, but it's a matter of staying at that mountaintop and keep wearing the crown. But Mr. Dehls, how are you?
Doing great. We got 6 handsome men in here. You can't beat that.
Really
Undefeated.
Now, Dehls, how do you feel about Drew pushing you off the mountaintop? Because aren't you guys tied in first place?
No.
No, I think Drew's got one ahead of me.
The Texans and Jets win didn't count on sleeper for him.
It doesn't count, but then he has the -1 still because of
week 1, I think, or week 2.
He
Yes.
started to stir some pot. He started to stir the pot there.
No, it's not a stir, baby. Joel knows I'm in first.
What sort of scoring system do you guys have going on here? How is there this much
It's
confusion?
so complicated.
Wait, what does Dehls have a -1 for?
Carson,
We do
I'll
it
tell
on
you flat out why it's
Sometimes it
complicated.
doesn't get locked in. Weird. The apps is weird.
That's
All
not-
right,
that's not the
Joel,
issue.
stop
That's
talking.
not the issue. The issue is that these dudes don't know how to follow the rules. So, first of all,
Rich coming from you.
Don't say these dudes.
Dehls.
What do you mean by that?
What do you mean by that?
We put our picks in a sleeper. They have a pick 'em thing. You just lock in your pick, and before the game, you have until before the game to lock in your pick. But we do it on the show. Dehls for the Jets and Texans game forgot to do it, and then there was one week that he picked the other team that he didn't pick on the show. So we had to keep track of that, make sure people aren't cheating. John has already folded. Riv has already folded. Drew and I are the only ones that have kept our picks on track, and when you look at the score, it's accurate. Riv, Dehls, and John, it's not the case. We have to do some mental gymnastics to figure out the score for them.
I folded one time. Them two folded multiple times. Don't put me in the
You're right. No, Riv, I'll give you did mess up once, but John and Joel are weekly dumbasses.
White people, bro.
100p, bro.
It's not my fault.
So, Dehls, how was your day, man?
It was good, bro. I worked all day. How about you, man?
Work's over. The week's over. I'm ecstatic about that. We was on playback last night. Drew's gonna just let this slide, but Franz Wagner hit a game winner and AD missed 2 free throws, and it was the funniest shit ever because AD after missing the 2 free throws airballed a jump shot. So it was fun to watch. It's fun to watch.
Ron also missed a free throw.
Oh,
It was
yeah,
a tough ending.
Who cared? That was like almost a whole minute before.
Yeah, it was definitely. It's funny because Franz made the three, but prior to that he missed that same exact three. So the fact that he shot it again really made me laugh. But nonetheless, I'm happy to be here with 5 other handsome men. You know, I'm always excited to be around men.
Did JJ Redick smash a chair on the ground like he usually does when he's frustrated, or no?
I know I did.
I was so busy watching Drew, I didn't realize what JJ did. But
The moment it caught me so off guard. I just could not believe we blew it so badly.
Yeah.
I watched Franz take that step back and being transparent, like, all right, we won.
shit was a
Thank
terrible
God.
shot. It was
a bad shot, and it was just nothing but bottom. And then we draw up a fading midi for Anthony Davis to win the game. Like, there was nothing better to draw up there. No, can't screen up top, get the ball to LeBron, make something happen. I get it. AD had 39. He was easily the best player on the court. Get the ball in his hands. A fading midi.
Make your free throws.
Have you guys ever been mad at a player that has had as good of a game that AD had last night?
Nah, I feel you.
The game ended. AD had 39, and I was angry at him.
Yeah.
I've never
Basically,
experienced
the
that.
KD argument. Basically the same thing.
You're right. You're cooking. I've definitely. I really don't know if I've seen LeBron have a bad. That's probably not true. He's probably missed a couple free throws in the clutch, and then I probably was pissed off at him. But this was such an easy win for us to lose the way that we did and choke it because of our free throws. What are you going to do about it?
Now, the NBA, we're like not even a quarter through the season, but we're getting there. I feel like now the observations are becoming a little bit more concrete. There are some things that we feel more comfortable about saying than we did earlier in the season. The Sixers, I feel like, are one of those teams that everybody is like collectively out on. They're 2-12. At the time that people watch this, they'll probably be 2-13 or 3-12. Logan, I'll start with you. What do you think about the Sixers, and what should they do after this poor start, getting Paul George and Embiid being hurt, Maxey coming back, and McCain has been a spark for them? Where do you think they should go from here?
I mean, I said it on our show that I think they should try their best to trade Joel Embiid or see what kind of value you could get back from him. I mean, I'm just kind of out on Embiid with his personality. It's not even like it has really nothing to do with his struggles. It has all to do with his leadership and personality. I don't think he's got a fire lit inside him that, you know, he really cares and really wants to win and climb the mountaintop. But it sucks because the theoretical 76ers, I think, are a really good team. Like, in theory, Embiid is your lead guy, Maxey and PG flanking them. And people have been shitting on the depth. They've got athletic wings. McCain has been balling off the bench. Like, the theoretical Sixers aren't that bad. But considering all the turmoil, all the drama, I think I'm just over Embiid. I don't think Embiid can be your number one guy on a championship team. I don't think he's got it in him. And I don't think you'd ever get the value back, you know, that would warrant trading him, but I am out on the Sixers. It's not like a talent thing, but it has everything to do with that locker room, their chemistry. I don't know. I still think they'll make the playoffs, though, right? I mean, the East is so bad. Like, I got to think that they're going to make the playoffs.
I don't know.
They want to.
They just got to get 38 wins and they'll be there.
I mean, to get into the play-in, bro, it might be 30. Like, you're going to be competing with the Bulls and the Pistons.
Hey,
They're bad.
We're here.
They're bad.
We're here.
They'll be in the play-in, and I think they'll get into the playoffs. But, like, they're still a massive disappointment considering what expectations were. And they're out of moves. That's the thing. I mean, Logan, you're talking about trading Embiid. They're not going to do that. They can't do that. I think that he's not nearly the asset to another team that he could be if he were, right, to manage to stay healthy for a postseason and play his best basketball for them. It's just when you're 30 years old, you miss 50% of your games. You're not the easiest to build a team around stylistically. I don't think anybody's really taken on Joel Embiid. So obviously PG was their move, right? And they thought, okay, here's a wing who we think can play really well off of our two existing stars and who's going to be able to defend multiple positions and be a really efficient offensive plug-and-play star for us. But he's obviously been horrible this year. So I'm with Logan. I mean, on all the criticisms of Embiid, I've been so disappointed by the way that he has failed in basically so many of the key categories for what makes for a franchise building block, right? Leadership, I think this shit about showing up late consistently, not understanding what's expected of him, required of him when your team is struggling, that's so disappointing. Availability, we know, has been a major issue for him. Playoff underperformance, playoff dropping. He's one of the worst in terms of the caliber of player that he is that we've ever seen there. So I just don't know why you'd be optimistic. I don't know why you would think that the best case scenario is going to play out for the Sixers when time and time again, we've seen Embiid fail in these same areas. And now that PG looks like this, I mean, they just look disorganized on both ends. It's terrible. It's terrible what is going on with them right now.
Does anyone believe in the Sixers?
I don't think there's going to be, they're not going to get worse than this. I think that's the saving grace.
Not.
They're not going to be worse. They're sitting here at 2-12. This is terrible. This is worst team in the league bad. This is Utah Jazz levels of bad, that it can't get worse than this. But also the aspirations we had, and I think the Sixers included, are championship. That's not happening. With that being said, it's going to be April. We're going to be talking about the play-in. The Sixers are going to be in that conversation. Obviously, I don't think they're going to miss the playoffs. And the narrative is probably going to be the Sixers being this dangerous 7th or 8th seed going up against the Celtics or the Cavaliers, because this team is so bad. And I agree. They've also, we have to acknowledge the injuries, right? We have to acknowledge Joel Embiid, of course, missing a ton of time. Everybody really missing time. But I think the biggest one is Paul George, because you have Paul George coming over from LA, obviously. New team, 33, 34, 35 years old, however old Paul George is at this time, has to get acquainted to his teammates and this team and the city. He gets injured. He comes back for a handful of games. Looks terrible, I'll give you that, but then gets injured again. So now it's going to be even longer until Paul George gets back out on the court. And then you have Joel Embiid with all of the things that Logan was talking about, kind of his lack of leadership. So that doesn't help. A lot of teams, and whatever sport you follow, your leader. If Joel Embiid is showing up late and he's not carrying, what do you think Tyrese Maxey, Paul George, all these other guys are going to do? I appreciate Maxey at least trying to call him out and holding him accountable, but this team's got really no shot of winning a championship, and that's why you signed a 34-year-old Paul George, 35-year-old Paul George to do. So, I mean, they'll be in the play-in. They'll take Boston or the Cavs to 5 games, maybe 6 if they get really lucky, and then they'll get bounced, and we'll look at this offseason and say, how do you fix them again for the 5th year in a row?
I have a theory. I actually think this is the best case scenario for them. I think this is what they needed, and this is why I say this. Paul George got hurt back-to-back, with the same hyperextension, the same knee. It was the same leg both times. Tyrese Maxey, I saw a stat that said on wide open jumpers, he's one of the worst shooters in the league. It's very odd of him, but of course he's been holding it down for most of the year up until he got hurt. Joel Embiid is a guy who's been dealing with injuries throughout his career. He hasn't been his best self coming back. You have a roster with Kelly Oubre, Caleb Martin, Andre Drummond is your backup. Yabu, I don't want to say his full name, but him, he's also Yabu. He's also on the roster. McCain has been a bright spot. You have a top 6 protected pick, right? You have a top 6 protected pick. Embiid is not going to get you exactly what you need, and the future doesn't look bright. I think shutting everybody down seems like the smart thing to do.
Lord.
I think shutting everybody down. I think even gunning for a play-in. Listen,
That's
brother.
what I'm saying. What are we doing?
I think gunning for a play-in makes 0 sense because you're not going to be able to improve this team next year or in the offseason. You won't have any money. You have Maxey tied up. PG's contract is going to be untradeable because of his age. Embiid is going to he's only going to continue to lose value because he's not going to get any healthier. Jared McCain is your only rookie that is really good, but he's literally your only rookie. I mean, Kelly Oubre is not going to get magically better. Caleb Martin is going to be 30. He's what he is. Andre Drummond is going to get a jump shot no time soon, so he's what he is. So your only hope and your only God grace is to land the top 6 protected pick, land your pick back, bring in one of those stars, maybe trade Embiid. If not trade Embiid, you do have Maxey, you have McCain, you have one of those top 6 guys, and you figure it out from there. But at this point, I don't see them going to play in a playing game where they're going to have to play Boston in the first round or Cleveland, hell, or even the Knicks, and you don't even know if the 3 guys are going to play. You don't know if Embiid, Maxey, and PG are going to be even there. And even if they do play, this team doesn't even have an offensive system. Watching them play, it's literally dribble, one-on-one, God help me, this might go in. If it doesn't go in, let's get back on defense. Their transition defense is terrible. Their half-court offense is abysmal. They don't have no ball movement, no cohesiveness. They don't have no legit playmaker. They don't have no real defensive big because Embiid barely plays. This team is actually bad from 1 through 5 just this year. Of course, I'm not saying Maxey is a bad player. He's not by any means, but they don't have no real elite wing stoppers. They're just not a team. So I think this team, I get it. It's November, but sometimes you got to know. Sometimes you just got to know early, and you don't want to sit here and prolong this. So I say, my opinion, you shut them down, man. You just shut them down and let this season be a wash. I mean, you can go shoot for a playing spot. And
season ticket holders, bad news.
It doesn't make sense. I mean, you could try to trade Embiid. Like maybe some team comes calling, but realistically, the only teams that have value in Embiid, or the only teams that you would want something back from are teams like OKC, Houston, Brooklyn. And I don't think those are teams that are going to take a flyer on Joel Embiid, who we don't know who's going to play. Maybe OKC might. Maybe they might think, well, we have SGA and these boys, they can hold it down in the regular season, and we have Embiid in the playoffs. But once again, another thing that's haunting Embiid is out of the top 10 players in the league, he is the worst playoff player in the league. Like, he is. Even if you go further into some top 15 guys, Ant-Man, D. Mitch, Jalen Brunson, fuck it, even Kyrie Irving, Embiid's probably below those guys too in terms of just playoff performance. So I think, in my opinion, shut this shit down, man. This shit over. Oh, and I have to edit my tweet. They're getting cut out.
They're not a part of the squads.
I can't have that no more. This shit is.
So you're done with Paul George?
To 22 or what?
No, no, I'm just done with the team.
So by the transitive property, you are also done with Paul George.
Yeah, for the season, yes.
Wow.
Bro keeps talking about nothing.
So that's actually exactly what I wanted to say. I have two things that I want to say. One, shutting them down in November is one of the craziest things I've ever heard. Not that I overly disagree, but it's nuts to think about the trio of Embiid, Paul George, and Tyrese Maxey, and we're already
they haven't even played together, man.
Exactly. We're already talking about blowing it up. That's it. It's over.
Wait, now, I didn't say blow it up. I said shut it down.
Shut it down is essentially the same thing when you have a 33-year-old Paul George, a 30-year-old Joel Embiid.
Be out. He's not going to play.
I've listened to 1, 2, 3, 4 all speak, and every single one of you guys said the exact same thing. I don't know what we're trading Joel Embiid for. What are we getting in return that would make us, the 76ers, content? And then the other teams that would be trading for Joel Embiid, do we want this guy who, one is, yes, when he's on the court, he is pretty amazing. That's just the truth. But are you going to stay on the court? And two, what kind of locker room presence are you? Logan, you mentioned personality. Are you a true leader? Are you one of those guys that can rally a group of guys to go and play winning basketball when it matters most? But the one thing I wanted to say is, when your story, when your drama is more entertaining than what your product is on the court, your season's doomed. Which is why, Riv, I can hear what you're saying. I may not overly agree with it because we haven't seen Maxey, Paul George, and Embiid on the court together, but I hear what you're saying because I like the idea of listening to Paul George. I like it because I'm messy, but in reality, it's extremely sad that you went and gave fuel to the fire on Maxey calling out Joel Embiid, saying that he's late to practice. We need you to be a better leader. When Joel Embiid comes out and says, we need to find the mole. We need to find the leak. So what does that confirm for all of us? It's true. It happened. Maxey actually went to Joel Embiid and called his ass out for being a bad leader. Strike one. Strike two is they haven't played together. And strike three is Paul George being more focused about his podcast and dropping within the week.
Doing numbers.
Great, consistent basketball. That's where you're losing me. And that's when, again, I was very excited about this big three coming into the season. I saw Joel Embiid with Bell's palsy go out in New York and have 50. When he's on, is one of the 5 best players in the world. But Logan, like you mentioned, and I can't agree more, he lacks a drive that we need to see from these top dogs. And unfortunately, right now, I'm seeing a lack of drive from the Philadelphia 76ers as a whole, minus Jared McCain. He's out there and he's having fun and he's hooping 15 points, amazing efficiency right now, probably rookie of the year leader. Dalton Connect has to answer the conversation. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But the 76ers right now are terrible to watch. 30th ranked defense. I believe they're a bottom 15 defense, 18th, if I'm not mistaken. That's the surprise, that their defense is the better of the unit when you have Embiid, you have Paul George and Maxey. But if the three aren't on the court, of course, it's going to translate to bad team play.
I feel like we all, for a fact, I think we all thought that the Sixers would be in the playoff race right now. They'd be one of the 5 best teams in the East, one of the 6 best, whatever, one of those things. But I feel like collectively, nobody was really bought in it on Philly this year. Like, even though right now we're disappointed in Philly because the season and how it started was so awful, eventually we were going to get to the point and have this conversation that this wasn't going to work out. I just feel like giving Paul George the max was a mistake. A 4-year max, there was a reason why the Clippers didn't want to pay him. He's not available often, and he chokes in the playoffs. A team led by 2 playoff chokers, nobody had any sort of enthusiasm about them in the playoffs. I just feel like we're arriving at a point of disappointment much earlier than later, because this is how it was going to end regardless. I don't have any faith in Philly. I don't have any faith in what they're building. I think Joel Embiid is a terrible franchise star to build around, and the Sixers should stop trying to build around Joel Embiid. It's over for Philly. That's all it is. And I think Daryl Morey has tried to prolong this as much as he could. And it gives me a lot of flashbacks of Houston and how it ended there. You trade Chris Paul for Russell Westbrook thinking that's going to ignite something. You have PJ Tucker playing the 5. I just feel like Daryl Morey, sometimes he holds too long onto franchise stars without trying to go into a full rebuild. And I'm not saying that's what Philly should do, because I think right now they're kind of locked in. I don't disagree. Like, in theory, if I'm playing 2K, that's what I would do with the Sixers. I would trade everybody. But the value that you're going to get for Embiid is not going to be equal to what he's worth. The value you're going to get for Paul George, they can't even trade him because he was just signed. And this is a much more difficult situation than what the Grizzlies were in last year, because when the Grizzlies were losing last year, they had their pick and they purposely lost. You saw them rest a couple guys, but the difference is Philly's is top 6 protected. They have to be a different level of bad. Mm-hmm. They have to be Washington Wizards level of bad from this point forward.
They definitely are.
Have their pick. And I just feel like if Embiid, even if he's playing every other game, they're still going to manage to get out of that bottom 6, and they're going to lose 100%. Their pick. And that's really what it's all about.
100%. I totally agree. I don't think that Riv's scheme is possible. First of all, they just can't do it, right? I mean, Joel Embiid is 30. They brought in Paul George on a max deal. You would be wasting 1/4 of the time that you have him. And also, it's like, even if you do get a top pick, this is a much better draft class, but like, unless you're getting Cooper Flagg, like, how much of an impact is a rookie really going to have in terms of your aspirations? And there's just way too many complicating factors. Like, first of all, the league's not going to let you shut down healthy dudes for the season. So, like, you're going to be walking that line. Top 6, I mean, you don't want to play with the lottery, right? Because what if you just narrowly miss and you land the 8th pick and then, like, this was all for nothing? I think if they have to go out there, I think they have to compete. And I'm not optimistic about Philly. I absolutely think they're going to look way better than this later, though. I mean, Paul George has been horrible. Embiid has been horrible and has only played 4 games. Maxey has really, really struggled to shoot the basketball effectively. Those 3 are going to be the driving force of this team's success. I think they're going to go on a run at some point this year where they're all healthy and, like, they still probably reel off 15 of 20 games or something. And they're going to be in the play-in, honestly, at least. And I'm confident they're going to make the playoff field, bro. They are 4 games back of the 5 seed right now. The East sucks after the top. But the Bucks are still going to be in the playoffs. The Sixers are still going to be in the playoffs. These aren't good basketball teams. Right now, these are bad basketball teams, but they're too talented in such a weak conference. And then, listen, once you're there, theoretically anything can happen. I don't think any of us are going to have faith in Philly, but at least they're giving themselves a shot to be competitive because they're all in. I mean, they're all in. There's no pulling back out the chips at this point. You're in on Joel Embiid. He is your franchise cornerstone. You're not going to trade him. You're in on Paul George. You're in on Tyrese Maxey. It's a terrible situation, but they still have to try to win games, and they will definitely win more games than they have up to this point. But if they do draw a Cleveland or a Boston, like, That's really tough. Boston, obviously, no chance.
Man, I think Drew could he could feed a country with that water bottle, man. Good Lord.
You like this one?
That thing is huge.
That was a big bitch.
I got a question for you guys. So the Sixers signed Paul George to a max contract, right? Hindsight obviously is 2020, but if you're the Sixers, would you rather have Paul George or just in the offseason sign Derrick Jones Jr. and KCP?
No, I would still do the PG trade. And that's the one thing I disagree with you on, I think, Joel, is that I would have done it. And like Carson said, the Sixers are in a situation like the Bucks where you have gone all in on your core. And so you really there's no turning back, right? You've already made your decision. I also think Riv made a really good point earlier when he was talking about how disjointed this team looks already. A big reason of that is because this is literally an entire new roster in Philadelphia. None of these guys have any continuity with one another because they've never played together. And that's also why it's important that Philly gets these guys on the court and they get healthy, because none of them have any experience playing together.
That's a good question, Joel. And I know people love the hindsight part. I don't know. Like, Paul George has been one of my favorite players in my whole life of basketball. I've watched him. I've defended him. I've drooled over him. I've thought about him. Like, I've been you feel what I'm saying? Like, he's just an amazing player. And
You've drooled.
I don't know if I feel what you're saying there.
You've drooled.
You what?
no, because
keep going.
In the playoffs when Kawhi went down and PG had to get in the mode, it was a movie. And now I'm sitting there looking at him, and I'm just watching wasted talent, just running your mouth, saying a bunch of stuff that doesn't matter, worrying about the podcast more than the actual on-court stuff. And it started with the Clippers last year when he was in the regular season, had a good regular season, and he's having fucking podcasts in between playoff games, and he's not really focusing. He's not paying, he has no self-awareness. He has no, he doesn't look in the mirror and think, no, it's just me. He always has to blame somebody else. And now we're in a situation where it's like, brother, you guys had a meeting. It got leaked. You decided this is great content. Let me go make it.
Let's drop a pod, baby.
Instead of gathering the guys and being like, nah, guys, we got to find this out. Let's keep this in home. Or going to get fucking better. And I think now, we could talk about the injuries. He was hurt, didn't play much in the preseason, came back. Obviously, you can see he's struggling to get his legs back. Then he gets hurt again. It's just, I get it, Carson. They're talented. They're top heavy as hell. But at the same time, PG is going to be out for some time. Now you have to kind of manage that because he is a much older player. Embiid is missing last night. He hasn't been good to come back. Maxi's going to come back soon. So it's just going to be Maxi and Embiid. And this roster isn't really Logan, this roster isn't really a continuity roster. Caleb Martin is kind of a one-on-one player. Kelly Oubre is kind of a one-on-one player. These are kind of guys who have shown in their career they're solo type player. We saw Caleb Martin in the playoffs kind of get buckets on his own little solo trips and stuff like that. I know you hate him. So I think realistically, even in the East, we think they should make the play-in, right? But at the same time, they have been so bad, so bad. I don't even know what can help them at the moment. Embiid can.
You got to win. You got to win some games.
What can help them is getting healthy. Legitimately, that's the only thing that can help them.
Sure.
And the Paul George injuries, they're kind of freak. His leg just bends a weird way. I know he's had injury problems throughout his career.
Happened 3 times in 7 months.
I know it's happened throughout his career, but it just feels a little unlucky. The fact you hyperextend your knee 2 times, same knee within the same month or two, just feels like that's a 1,000,001 shot. And
the pose
to answer your question, Joel,
looks pretty practiced though. The pose that he strikes when he does hyperextended, his knee does look pretty practiced. That's all I'll say.
It does look practiced. I know. That's why it was 2 injuries that were identical to each other, and who knows how long if if it becomes worse the second time you do it. I'm not a doctor, but Derrick Jones Jr., you would love to have. This man shooting 45% from 3. He's doing some great things for the Clippers, playing defense.
Would y'all really take? Would y'all really take?
That's James Harden. That's James Harden.
But KCP on the other side, because honestly, flip a coin between the two. KCP was more highly prioritized, right? He got a bigger bag. He's out there not really doing shit offensively for the Magic. We know what he can bring on the defensive side, but offensively, this man has been a liability, if we're being completely honest. So you're kind of taking the odds of, is this role player who had shown to shoot well in the past, is he going to keep doing it? If he does, great. We got an elite 3-and-D type of dude. If he doesn't and he's KCP, it's like, shit, we just gave this man close to $20 million a year. That was probably a mistake. I think the upside was always there with Paul George, and you had to go with some upside because you have to get past Boston. Respectfully, I don't know if you're going to get past Boston with KCP and Derrick Jones Jr. You're basically trying to build a worse version of the New York Knicks with those type of guys and those type of wings, right? You have Maxey and Embiid, of course, but those are going to be the guys to stop Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. That seems unlikely. They just got unlucky, man. If I'm being completely honest, they just got unlucky. To be fair, though, they're also banking on players who can't stay healthy. You're banking on Joel Embiid. You're banking on Paul George. So you kind of brought this upon yourself.
Yeah, right now, you guys have mentioned that the Eastern Conference sucks. And right now, there's only 4 teams that are over 500 in the Eastern Conference. And I think that poses an interesting question. Should we remove conferences in the NBA? Do you think that that's a viable solution going forward, or is it kind of a trend thing? Because there are some arguments out there that people have made that this is the ebbs and flows, that sometimes the East is just weaker than the West, but it kind of feels like the East has been weaker than the West for my entire lifetime. Like, this has not been something that has kind of been fixed, or it hasn't kind of gone through the ebbs and flows and things. Do you think this is a realistic option for the NBA, or would it hurt the NBA? Carson, I'll start with you.
I think it's difficult. I think that we see that the NBA is increasingly taking more and more measures to try to make scheduling as easy on dudes as possible, right? We have that now where you're playing the back-to-back games against the same team in the same arena. And so if you go and you eliminate conferences, are you still playing teams geographically closer to you more, or are you playing everybody an equal random amount? I have historically been on the side of leave conferences as they are because of the theory that like things should eventually ebb and flow, right? In the 80s, the East was way better than the West. But we are talking about 25 years now. And I think that part of this is just organizationally, right? A lot of the best organizations are in the West, the Warriors, the Thunder. These are just consistently competent organizations year over year. And a lot of best players right now are in the West. So I think that I can be kind of traditionalist in that I like the conference format, but it does make me angry when like I'm looking at the play-in, and I kind of think that there should be a threshold like we had in the bubble. Remember, you had to be a certain amount of games back to participate, right? I think that that should be the rule for the play-in. Like if you're not within 5 games of the seed above you, why do you really deserve an opportunity to steal that playoff chance from them in one game? And that's way more of an issue in the East. Like before the year, right, you looked at the West and you're like, damn, there's 12 good teams in this conference. You look at the East and you're like, yeah, there's 7. And 3 of those teams have sucked. The Pacers have sucked. The Sixers have sucked. The Bucks have sucked. So I don't know that we need to abolish conferences, but I become increasingly open to hearing that argument because the disparity between these two conferences isn't going away. It hasn't gone away. And when you look to the foreseeable future, a lot of the best young talent remains in the West.
Yeah, and I think it's the most imbalanced the league has ever been. Like, this has been a problem for a while, and like you said, like Houston, right? A lower tier team out west, they're going to get a lot better. The Spurs have Wemby, right? The Spurs are going to be really deadly soon. So I agree with you, though. I don't think we should abolish conferences. I'm open to hearing ideas about the play-in, right? Like, if the West teams are better than the East teams in the play-in, why don't we just have like – I get it's weird, but like, why don't we just have like 4 West teams in the play-in and they play for the spots? Like, it doesn't make sense to me that, you know, hypothetically, right, like a 30...
Are you saying 2 West teams would have a chance at the East playoffs, or they're all competing in the West playing? Because then I don't know that really fixes the problem.
I'm saying fuck those bottom of the East teams. Like, just let them go to the lottery.
Imagine you just threw in 2 more West teams.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, that's what I will say. Actually, that's a point I meant to bring up, Logan. We have expansion coming apparently in 3 years. That's a big opportunity. You can't fix everything, but you send Minnesota to the East, you send Memphis to the East. That does something to balance out the conferences, and that makes sense geographically. Those teams are in the East.
Damn, you cooked. I think I don't think the West having more talent is the problem. I think just the East lacking. I always go back when this conversation jumps up. I always go back to our time where, and me and Dehls being the oldest guys here, we can kind of, relate to this. Just the 08, 09, 010, 11 seasons where we had the East, where we had Boston in the Big Three. We had D Rose and the Bulls. We had Dwight Howard in the Magic. We had Danny Granger coming up with the Indiana Pacers. We had them Atlanta Hawk teams where we had Al Horford, Joe Johnson, and them boys. Like we had Detroit, who was still hanging around. We had a good collection of 7, 8 East teams where they may not have been better than the West, who of course have always, I think in our lifetime, been the top upper echelon conference, but the East was no slouch. You still had your competitive teams. And I think that really, to me, is the problem where we're lacking in that department of just an exorbitant amount of competitive teams in the East. Because in the West, there's like 11 or 12 teams that realistically could probably make a playoffs. In the East, we are definitely lacking in that department. I mean, right now we have Detroit, who's probably in the play-in right now. We have teams like Milwaukee, who's not that good. So I think that's the thing. But I like, how do we fix it? A lot of players tend to go to the West in free agency, or they get traded to the West. We've seen, we was in it before. We had PG head over to the West back when he was in Indiana. We had Jimmy Butler at one point. He went from Chicago to Minnesota. Like, we've had that points where guys just end up in the West. They have the more talented all-star teams. I think that was probably a reason why we had to shake up the all-star game a little bit, because the West is just, you've seen the West. We're trying to figure out the West all-star games, and we're missing dudes, and we're like, damn, they should be on the all-star, where in the East it's kind of like easy to pinpoint who can be in the all-star game. So I think it's really just about, because right now in the East, we have what? The Wizards, they suck. The Nets, they'll probably fizzle out. We have Detroit, they'll probably fizzle out. Charlotte, we know they're not that good of a team, but right now they're playing okay basketball. In the West, it's what? Just the Pelicans? And then the Spurs are playing good ball. It's just the Pelicans, the Jazz, and the Blazers. So, I think the East just has to up their talent more in just terms of organizations being better at developing talent, finding talent, building better teams. And I think if we can get that balance, I don't think the conference thing will be an issue. I do think the expansion probably will bring it back, because having Memphis and Minnesota in the East is lit, because those are like perennial playoff teams. They'll make it a lot more difficult, and the East will probably be a lot better.
Yeah, I think the West also just got all-time talent for like half the teams, right? You have Tim Duncan gets drafted to the Spurs, where you have Steph Curry on the Warriors. You have KD bounce around to a couple different teams in the Western Conference. And then you look over in the East, you're like, oh, shit. They had Derrick Rose for a little bit. Al Horford was on the Hawks. He was running the East for a little bit, So when you look at like the 2010s and who was really running it into the 2020s, it's these Western Conference teams have just gotten all-time greats, and you still have some all-time greats now. Like now, Nikola Jokic is over there, and you have some young and up-and-coming guys like Anthony Edwards would be the third best player in the Eastern Conference potentially, and over in the West, he's like behind 5 or 6 different guys. So the Western Conference has just had almost getting a little bit lucky with all of the all-time greats they've had, right? Like outside of LeBron James in the Eastern Conference, who has been the all-time great in the East over the last 10 seasons? Like, who has been that second best player? Giannis, sure. Who's the third?
Tatum.
Like, probably, if we're being honest.
Okay.
Because over in the West, you got KD and you got Steph Curry and you got Tim Duncan. So it's just like
quiet for a year. You had quiet for a year.
True.
Western Conference guys, San Antonio and then the Clippers. So they've really just gotten, whoa, sorry, Henry's over here screwing with my light. They've just gotten some all-time great guys. And the East is like battling with some like 88 overall players in 2K, while the West has 99 overall players. I don't know if it's ownership, because we see this in football.
It's like organizational incompetence,
the Giants,
bro. It's
the Jets and the Giants can't figure shit out, and you got the Rams and the Chargers just all of a sudden like winning Super Bowls, and now the Chargers are like looking like a great team. So it does start organizationally, ownership, front office, all of that. But the West has also just gotten some really great players.
I can understand. Oh, go ahead, Carson.
No, I already had. Okay, well, I was just going to say real quick, Riv did mention the free agency point. That's a big one, and that's intertwined with the organization part, right? I mean, think about what are the premier destinations in free agency in the NBA, and which organizations are most aggressive about getting those guys. Dallas, super aggressive. The Clippers, right? Obviously, the experiment didn't work out, but they're very aggressive in LA. Lakers, obviously, number one. Warriors were able to get KD. Like, you just look up and down. The Suns, we know Ishbia is super aggressive, and they've gotten some superstars, obviously, with KD going there via trade. And then you look out in the East, and it's like, in terms of free agency, who do we hear about? We hear about the Knicks. The Celtics aren't even a team that you hear about being active as much on the free agency market.
Brooklyn's been the most aggressive. Of them. Yep.
And Brooklyn's had one good year.
Miami's rumored to get every single player.
We hear about hasn't happened in a decade.
Sixers, they did just get PG.
I should say.
And I feel like, to the point you're talking about, it just goes back to the teams in the West are in much better positions to compete. Like, it makes no sense for a team like the Wizards, let me go get Kevin Durant. Like, it doesn't make sense for them. It makes sense for a team like the Suns that they're trying to maximize Devin Booker and they're trying to compete more. So I have this fun little game here. And before
can I give my idea real quick?
Yeah.
All right. So my idea, and I know that the whole thing's abolish everything, all 30, let's duke it out. Divisions have not mattered in basketball. I look at the other two sports in football and in baseball and how crucial divisions are and how they are able to lead to a nice playoff bracket. Now I look at the NBA and I look at what it can be. If you have the three divisions for both the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference, if you take the top two of each division, that's 6 teams, and then you have 2 wild cards. So as it would stand right now, you would have the Celtics and the Knicks representing the Atlantic. You would have the Cavaliers and the Pistons right now. But I mean, I'm assuming it'd be either the Bucks or the Pacers. That's one of the two. Let's not disrespect the Pistons. The Pistons. They've been playing okay ball, I guess. You have the Magic and the Heat right now that would represent the Southeast. Then you'd have your 2 wild card teams there. I feel like when it comes to that, and now in terms of competing and giving yourself a chance at the playoffs, it's a lot more reasonable and a lot more realistic to either be that second or that wild card team. Because even if divisions are a little bit more stacked, like the Atlantic do have the Sixers, the Nets have a bunch of picks, I don't know, or that really will apply for the Western Conference more than anything else. But let's just go for the Hawks in the Southeast, where the Hawks have Trae Young, they have Jalen Johnson, they just had the number 1 overall pick. And they made that Zachary Richer, who obviously has had some ups, had some downs this season, but they're a team that they can potentially be a playoff team. Maybe we would see teams in the Eastern Conference be a little bit more aggressive if they did have a much better chance of being in the playoff picture, or at least having a realistic shot in the playoffs. I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at. I know divisions essentially don't really matter where we stand right now in the NBA, but I feel like it would make teams in the East feel as if we have a little bit better of a shot of making the playoffs, which could generate revenue for us, which could ultimately lead to players being interested to want to come play for our franchise.
I think making divisions more important heightens rivalries, but it's a rebrand of conferences, because the teams that are still fighting for those playoff spots are still those teams that are pretty bad. I feel like the NFL does a good job at divisions because they have teams that are in the East that are in separate conferences. You have the AFC and you have the AFC East and the AFC West. I mean, AFC East and NFC East. All those teams are in the East, and in the NBA, all of them would be in one conference, but the NFL has found a way to split those teams. So for the NBA, I feel like it would be something of maybe just having teams that are in the East or West be in the same divisions to kind of make it more competitive. I just feel like it's much harder logistically for the NBA to do that because there is more travel involved, where with the NFL, it's only one game a week. I like the point that you guys brought up, Logan and Carson, with the organizational stuff, because I do think if you look top to bottom, there are more bad organizations in the East. So I kind of wanted us to just play a little game, like yes or no. Is this organization bad? And that's it, to try to measure what conference is really that much stronger and how much competent organizations the Western Conference has compared to the East. So
how many years are we going back on this?
I just feel like, whether you think they're a good organization,
okay. 1946, Riv, back when it was the BAA. We're talking about the Toronto Huskies, baby.
I would say like the last the last decade. You know, like
Okay.
the Clippers once were a bad organization.
Yep.
I don't know if I'd say the Clippers are a bad organization now. So basically
That's a good. Yeah, I like that.
How many organizations in the Eastern Conference are bad? The Cleveland Cavaliers, yes or no?
No.
They're not a bad organization.
The Boston Celtics,
Obviously not.
They're the worst.
They stink morally.
the New York Knicks.
No.
No. Turned it around.
I mean, for a while they were, yeah.
I mean, we're giving a lot of credit to 3
5.
years here.
True.
Okay, actually, but you know what? All that matters is
No.
who's in power right now. Leon Rose is good.
I'll say
they're
no.
a good organization right now.
The Orlando Magic.
No.
No,
Man, I'm
Not a bad
leaning.
organization.
they're in the
fine.
middle
Who's
for
the team
me.
that
No.
Yeah.
They're not bad now.
So far, we don't have any teams in the East that are bad organizations. The Miami Heat.
Yes,
Organization.
I'd say no.
You're saying they're bad, Riv?
right.
not
In the
a
last
bad
10
organization.
years,
They're stable.
They went to two
stable.
finals in the last
Not a
however
joke,
many
bro.
years.
outside of Jimmy Butler, what have they done to help that team?
Okay, hold on.
Oh,
But if
man,
we're
come
saying that
on.
Orlando is a good organization and Miami isn't, Orlando has been bad.
Orlando's a bad organization that got lucky
fair.
with Paolo.
They
Fair,
had
fair. I just
several years with
Once
Dwight,
again,
and now they have this new
that's fair.
iteration.
Pat Riley has really just fallen off, so he hasn't done much.
Miami's
But
a good
the
organization.
standard is so high. The standard they've set is
That's
so
fair.
high. They're always competitive.
Like I
and that
don't
makes you a good
like
organization.
their finals runs. I don't even put that on their organization. That's just their players overachieving shit. But I get what you mean.
Well,
organization's good.
It's
Spo's a
organization's
great coach,
good, Rick.
and they've had a
Yeah,
great
it's good.
coach for 15 years.
Yep, no free agents in the last 5 years. I got it.
I'm with you. I'm with you there.
This is actually one of the organizations that I think is a comfortable yes, honestly, with the
Yeah,
Heat. Like, they're
I
a
agree.
good organization. I think they're good.
Okay.
The Atlanta Hawks.
Bad.
No.
Bad organization.
Definitely not good. Definition of mediocrity.
No, I'll say no.
Okay, that's our first
I would
bad
argue
one.
that they're not even mediocre because they did have their ECF run, but it was also off the basis of Trae Young was amazing against the Knicks and then against the Sixers, ultimate collapse, and then the Bucks, even unhealthy, weren't able to get past them regardless. So I would say no, they're a bad organization.
The Detroit Pistons.
Bad.
Bad.
Terrible.
The worst, maybe.
The Brooklyn
The
Nets.
Wizards exist. The Nets suck.
Bad.
Nets
The
are
Nets
bad.
are bad. Riv,
All right, can I say something? Can I say something? Can I
They
say
made
something?
moves.
Is my connection dog shit?
Your
Terrible.
connection
Yeah,
is
we hear
dog
you.
shit.
Well, we hear you right now.
Yes.
All
It's
right.
just your camera's pixely, but we do hear your voice.
Brooklyn has made some moves, man. But I'll say no. But Brooklyn has made some moves. They've been aggressive. They've been aggressive.
No,
I can't.
I think the Brooklyn Nets conversation is a little bit more interesting than just
Yeah, they've been. Listen, hey.
Well, they gave the Celtics a dynasty. They're the definition of a bad
They also
organization.
hired
man.
Steve Nash to be the coach of that team,
they
and they
bounced
banked
back.
on Kyrie and KD.
They bounced back faster than Detroit has bounced back from their rebuild.
Bounce
After
back.
giving the Celtics the top.
Detroit's maybe the
Bounce
worst organization in
back to
basketball.
what,
They
though?
got
Logan.
Kevin Durant, Kyrie, and Harden. Look, I'm gonna say no.
Let me back you up.
But what materialized from that? A second round run. What?
No, listen. I don't
They
think that's
weren't
on the
healthy.
organization, though. I think that's on the players. The
Okay,
move.
I think they're a horrible organization.
They made some
bro.
cool moves. I'm
Okay,
gonna say
here's the
no,
thing. I
but
think
they made some cool moves.
it's a tale of different years. Billy King, Nets era, worst organization in basketball. Since Sean Marks has taken over, I can hear competence.
And they just
I can
got
hear
their
it.
picks back. That's what,
Can I also make to be at the defense for the Pistons? They've gotten super unlucky at the draft. They
No, they're
should have
bad.
had a top
They
3
know how to
pick
draft.
every single. Say it again.
They don't know how to draft.
They don't, but they should be a team that should be in contention for the first pick every
they
single
hired
season.
Monty Williams.
That was Monty was a good
That's
coach
hired
coming
Steve
in.
Nash, brother. They hired Steve Nash.
That's fair.
Monty Williams was supposed to be good for them.
That's fair. Wait. Oh yes, yes.
But Monty, at
And
the
they-
time, Monty said he did not want to be the head coach, and they just gave him an offer that he could not refuse, and he's getting paid now for the next 5 years, an insane amount of money.
Sean Marks
They
has
also
been
were
good.
supposed to get Wemby and ended up with the 5th pick.
There is
It
no
sucks
way you're
to suck, man. It
arguing
really
for the
does.
Pistons being a good organization.
No, no, it's not 2006.
All I'm
That's not
saying
what I'm
is Sean Marks has been good. That's all.
I
I'm
would
saying.
argue that they are dog shit for multiple reasons. I would also say they are a super unlucky
The
organization
Pistons
as well.
have been rebuilding for like 17 years, bro.
They have a championship in the last 2 decades.
Oh my God.
They're a bad organization.
Well, technically not anymore. That was 2004. We're in the 24-25 season.
Hey, 25 hasn't happened yet. I live in the now,
No,
baby.
listen, bro. I mean, the Pistons, obviously, late 80s, amazing. 2000s, 6 straight great seasons. But, I mean, that was a
That
long
Blake
time
Griffin
ago,
run,
dude.
can't forget.
Oh my God,
Oh,
bro.
that was terrible. That was 1 year.
I'm having
that.
fun.
All right.
But the truth of the matter is, the only thing I'm saying, they are a bad organization with terrible luck. I will also stand on that. They're unlucky.
Can I say something about the Nets real quick? First of all, this is crazy. So I just looked up in the Sean Marks era. The Nets are 24th in win percentage. The Pistons are worst by so far, under 34%. But
Wow.
like, what has materialized in the Sean Marks era? Like, obviously, he inherited a bad situation, and then he made an ineffective all-in move, and
was a
now
good
they're
move.
just like back where they started.
It was a good move. It didn't work out, but I think
It
it's a
didn't
good
work.
move. But I don't think that's necessarily a bad move just because it didn't work.
But like, is it unpredictable that like Harden would quickly become dissatisfied with that situation?
He
You
got hurt in the
invested,
playoffs.
but he also asked out midway through the next season.
Anybody does that.
Harden on-
Any franchise does
KD,
that.
Harden, and
I don't
Kyrie,
disagree with that.
had
I
they
don't
not got
disagree
hurt,
with
we
that.
would've won a championship.
I don't disagree with that, Riv.
would've
Why are we
made
acting like that
knows.
one move offsets everything else? Though, when that one move, even if we think the process was good, right, and teams would have done that, that still wasn't a success. And everything around that has been a failure,
Yeah.
damn near for their entire history.
No, I
do
can.
what you- we
Listen,
did- yeah, I
Nets,
get what you
I
mean.
can hear that. I can hear that. So right now we have the Hawks, Pistons, Nets, bad organizations. The Charlotte Hornets,
Definition of. Definition of.
Bad.
Damn near.
fourth. The Indiana Pacers.
No, they're a good organization.
Yes.
Good. Literally,
I
like,
see what they did to Victor Oladipo. That's all I'm gonna ask.
Riv, they are as consistently competitive.
Them in Utah. Them in
Actually,
Utah.
did you
Them in
see
Utah.
What they did to Victor Oladipo.
Oladipo
The
got hurt.
Pacers,
No. Did you see what he said? He said in an interview how they lied about his injury and they messed up his knee. That's all I'm going to say on that matter. But I would say they're a solid organization.
I mean,
That's
the
all I'm gonna
Pacers haven't been bad
in a long
since
time.
like the mid 80s.
Oh, yeah, they're
Before
solid.
Reggie.
Like after they traded Paul George, Victor Oladipo gave them an All NBA season. After
Always
Oladipo, they
competitive.
bounced back with Sabonis and like average core.
They traded
and
for
then
Hallie, though.
Tyrese. What do you mean?
You do that trade. Come on,
Finals
man.
appearance. What are you talking about?
Zing!
Conference Finals appearance.
All right. So the
Yeah.
So further than the Brooklyn Nets. Further than the Brooklyn
point.
Nets went.
He cooked.
So next team, the Milwaukee Bucks.
Bad. I'd say they're a bad organization.
I don't
They
think
got lucky with Giannis.
I completely agree, dude. I completely agree.
they're bad.
I tend to agree.
No, they also drafted Middleton in the second, did they
They
not?
didn't. The
Traded
Pistons
for
did
Drew
draft
Holiday.
Middleton.
They picked
The
up Brooke
Pistons drafted
Lopez.
him.
No,
They
traded for
drafted
Middleton.
Grayson.
They got Middleton. They didn't draft him.
Yeah, they
Yeah, the
traded for
Pistons-
him.
the
Did they
Pistons
trade it
drafted
for him?
Middleton.
They traded for him on draft day, or
Yes.
No.
He played for Detroit first, and he
Oh,
was in the G League, and
I
then they
remember
got
they
him.
traded for him.
They drafted Jabari Parker.
Well, that's not.
great.
I mean, that's unlucky.
I also would have drafted
but the
Jabari
Nets
Parker.
aren't unlucky now.
The Nets are stupid. The Nets are
They also
horrible.
traded for MCW.
Terrible franchises are usually unlucky, if
No,
we're being
I would-
honest.
I would have
Okay.
drafted Jabari too.
Yep.
as well.
Okay, here's what I'll say. I don't think we can call the Bucks a bad franchise
No.
per se. I also wouldn't call them a good franchise. And I think that what they've done in the last year, and I'm not even talking about the Dame trade, honestly, the last several years, they stayed committed to a core that was aging and declining for too long. And then they tried to save the situation, obviously, by letting Drew go and bringing in Dame. And Dame wasn't what they hoped, but that wasn't the fundamental problem to me. The fundamental problem was being invested in this whole group that's just getting older and worse. And then what they've done around them,
They traded 5 seconds for Jay Crowder.
silly. Taking AJ Johnson this year, least ready to impact dude you could have taken in the first round, like stuff like that. Not addressing getting a younger, more athletic center than Brooke Lopez. Like this is where I don't give them credit. And it's like they have Giannis and they're 6-9 right now.
I don't
That's
think
'cause
they hit on a
made bad
draft pick in a decade outside of
They
Giannis.
haven't. I feel like how we can answer this question is post Giannis, do you trust Milwaukee to rebuild successfully?
Hell no.
I barely trusted them with
They hired Doc Rivers. They hired
And
Doc
Norman
Rivers.
Ham.
All right,
That would
we
be
understand.
Keep it going. AJ Griffin.
We
Adrian
understand
Griffin
there are
left.
teams that don't have championships, correct? There are teams that don't have one at all.
True. There are a whole lot of teams that don't have a Giannis
I don't
Antetokounmpo.
care. I
Injuries.
don't care. They're the team that drafted him regardless.
They got lucky
They have a
injuries.
championship
And that's
in
what I'm
the
saying.
last 5 years.
That's why I'm not
They're
calling them
good
a bad organization.
Okay,
They
so
have
I'm
a
calling them bad. I'm saying
championship.
they're middling.
So
They're
Bucks,
middling. I'm fine
yes
with
or
that.
no? Are they a bad organization? Yes or no?
No, they're not a bad organization.
Bucks are not
No,
bad.
they're bad. They're bad to me. I'm
No,
going
they're
back.
not.
They're bad.
Okay,
They've had a
They
bad couple
drafted
of
an
years.
all-time great player.
He's a fucking late pick. Congrats. You
we're
got
moving on.
That should only be beneficial to them.
Bro, for every
Drew, answer this question. How many picks have they hit on since Giannis? I know.
Do you guys want to hear?
That's been 10 years ago.
Do you
This
have
is
the draft
crazy.
in front of you, Carson.
I do. So 2014, they go Jabari. 2015, 17th pick, Rashad Vaughn, not even an NBA player. 2016, 10th pick, Thon Maker, not an NBA player. 2017, 17th pick, DJ Wilson, not an NBA player. That's bad, bro. Those are middle of the first round.
can
That's
keep
top
going.
10
You
picks.
don't have
I
to
They're
like
wasted.
DJ Wilson.
Then they
though.
get DiVincenzo, who they didn't. You like, well, yeah, okay. DJ Wilson didn't work out. I don't know what you want me to tell you.
I like
You're
him
still in on the
enough.
stretch big potential.
Dante's a
You
W.
gonna figure it
Hey,
out.
keep going. I heard the first good player you mentioned. Dante's a
Dante,
dub.
yeah, and guess
Not with
what?
them.
No,
He's
but
got
he's a
way
good
better
player.
after.
He was
Wait,
better.
did
Way
No.
better.
So we're not giving them credit for
We
Chris
can't.
Middleton, and we're not going to give them credit for
No,
Dante.
Chris Middleton, sure, but not
Chris
Dante.
Middleton, they get credit for. You said they drafted him. They didn't draft
I made a
him. That was the
mistake.
correction.
Hey,
Go ahead.
Dante-
I'm just
like
saying he
Carson
got
said,
good.
that
You're
nigga.
saying Dante got good once he left. Chris Middleton got good once he came.
Look, I always liked Dante. Dante was one of my three
Well,
favorite
Dante's a
dudes in
good
this
draft pick. I think that's that for sure.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Okay, then they trade Kevin Porter the next year. Then they trade a few of these picks in a row. Then recent years, they take Beauchamp, and then their last first round pick is AJ Johnson.
Smooth one, guys. I think the Bucks are bad. I think they're lucky.
Going
bro.
bad.
I will say they did still draft Giannis, and they do still have a title.
The nail in the
last
coffin is
half
they
decade.
hired Doc Rivers. I mean, that
And
tells you everything
that's
you
what I'm
need
saying.
to
They've had a
know.
bad 2 years for sure. I would say that they're a middle of the pack organization. I don't think I could say they're bad.
Carson, there's more bad for them in the last 10 years than good.
Who's it? Are they? Are the Hawks a
Giannis
better
alone
organization
outweighs a
than
lot,
Milwaukee?
bro.
I agree.
don't think so.
They've hired 3 bad coaches in that span. They've not hit on a single draft pick outside of Giannis. And then
Bud had his flaws,
Are the Bucks just the Bengals? They just have an elite
The
quarterback.
Bengals
They have
are the
Giannis.
most poverty franchise in the NFL.
Okay,
I know, and
Propped up
Joe
like-
Burrow is holding them as much as he could. This year, it's not working
Okay,
out.
but
But the
right
last 2
now-
years, it's been Joe Burrow.
right now, but not if we zoom out, because like Bud had his issues. Right, if you're talking about 3 bad coaches, they also were an automatic high 50s win.
I'm not
team
talking
with
about
him
Bud.
year in,
I'm
year
talking
out.
about Adrian, Doc, Ham.
They've
Oh,
had
you
a
were counting
bad
Ham.
2
Okay, I
years.
thought you were saying
They've had a
head
bad 2
coaches.
years. But so Riv, you're saying no, they
They're bad. They're bad. They're bad to me.
Logan, you're saying they are a bad organization. Carson is in the
Yeah.
middle. Dehls, where are you at?
I'm in the middle as well.
Okay, Drew, you think they are in the you're in the middle, or they are a good organization?
They're a good organization because they have a championship.
Okay, they will not be counted on this list. We're moving on.
So
The Chi-
hold up. By transitive, we can move on. But by transitive logic, the Kings are a good organization because they have a championship.
No, they have one in the last 5 years.
Okay.
okay, next team up.
Bro was about to bring up the Rochester Royals.
Yes.
I was gonna
Yes,
say, like, if
bro.
you want to go ABA back in the day, fucking the Nets have 2 championships.
Oh, yeah, we're
nobody
Literally
cares
the
about.
1951 Rochester Royals. You were going to start talking about Bobby Wanzer, weren't you?
I don't even know these
Nobody
names.
knows who Bobby Wanzer is. There's no reason for anybody to know.
Next team, the Chicago Bulls.
Bad organization. Bad.
Oh my
Horrible.
God! Last 10 years.
Incompetent. Incompetent.
And you know what, guys? This I wish I would have shut up just maybe a second sooner, because this team epitomizes why I was wrong on the last team. So I apologize. Got saved by Michael Jordan, and Michael Jordan started the whole wave. That being said, Jerry did make some amazing selections afterward, amazing transitions after going and getting Dennis too, Kukoc. He cooked.
That was 25
However,
years ago.
They
It
drafted
was a long
Brandon
time
Miller.
ago, and like you guys are saying, you don't trust them moving forward after Giannis. I get where you're coming from, especially once I hear the Bulls' name.
I don't trust
It's
the Bulls after D Rose.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Well, I
agreed.
mean, our packs were terrible, and then Carcinovas has been terrible. They've been in terrible hands for
I
20
I don't
years.
trust the Bulls if they get Cooper Flag.
I think the
I'll be
difference between the Bulls and the Bucks, though, is that with the Bucks, their drafts have been bad, but I do think that in the late 2010s, after they lost in the conference finals to the Raptors, they realized Eric Bledsoe's a problem. We gotta go get it. We gotta go get Jrue Holiday. They traded a lot of first round picks to get Jrue Holiday. They did sign Brook Lopez. Like they did build a competent roster around Giannis, and they do deserve credit for the signees that they made and the trades as well. But the Bulls are bad. So right now we have the Pistons, Hawks, Nets, Hornets, and Bulls. That's 5 teams. That's 33% of the Eastern Conference right now. The Washington Wizards.
Lock.
Obviously. Terrible.
Don't even know what they are.
Terrible.
What have they done?
They're going on
6 teams.
15 years of bad, bro.
The Toronto Raptors.
Good.
I think they're a good organization. Yeah.
Really good.
They've made some bad moves lately, but good.
Are they really good? They're
What's their
fine.
bad move? Signing Emmanuel quickly?
Last
Lost
10
me.
years, though.
Whoa,
10 years they've been good.
Daniel Quickly's a monster, bro.
I like him a lot, but his contract's expensive. That's what Riv's statement is.
What?
He's
Emmanuel,
a good player. Don't get
Give me
caught
a
in
second.
semantics. He's a good player, Riv.
That's what
Stop.
we do here. That's what we do here.
You know,
Is he
the
better to go
one
get his
thing-
Emmanuel quickly jersey? That's got to be
I
aura.
think he is. Oh my God, he is.
He is. The one thing I would hold against Toronto as we wait for the reveal is waiting too long to make the OG and Siakam deals.
Yeah.
But the value they ended up getting back, it's like, all right, you know, they stayed in mediocrity for too long, but they got the value.
That's hard.
And
not
that's
even
Nick's
tough.
jersey.
It's not the Raptors one.
That's
If it was the
classic.
Raptors one, oh my God, he would have been T1 quickly.
That's honestly, that's a better jersey than the Raptors jersey.
would be nasty.
Whoa,
Yeah.
whoa. The new city edition?
The Knicks quickly jersey is better than the Raptors jersey.
Easily.
We're
No,
not letting any
the
Quickly
city
slander get
edition with the
tolerated, bro.
Raptor on it.
No, the jersey's fire. The jersey's better, but Emmanuel
Okay.
quickly on the Raptors. I don't. This isn't the long-term thing here.
Oh, would you stop? Did you watch him cook the second half when he got traded to the Raptors?
Brother said a year ago.
Hey,
Last year, no,
Couple months.
Quickly's
It was
good,
a
but
couple
don't get
months a
Raptor
year
jersey.
ago.
And now to wrap up the game, the Sixers are the very last team I will name. So far, we have 6 teams that are bad organizations
Bad
in the East.
franchise.
They literally tanked their way into being relevant. Like, if we really think about it, they said, we're just going to be bad for
And
a
they
few years.
still found a way to fuck it up.
Exactly.
I
think
mean,
they're a horrible
they've been in the
organization.
playoffs like the last 6-7 years.
I couldn't
We did say a decade.
call them bad.
I can't call them bad. I'll say middle.
No, they're bad. They haven't gone to an ECF. Like Logan just said, they tanked their way to getting good players, and they still found a way to fuck it up
They
by
didn't
not
take their way
bringing
to
back
get
Jimmy Butler.
They didn't take their way to get Jimmy Butler.
No, they
But then
tanked
they
their way
let
to
him
get
walk.
Joel Embiid and
They
Ben
get Ben
Simmons,
Simmons.
which
Angelo
then
Okafor.
went
Okafor.
and made them
Yeah.
think,
Yeah.
we're a move away. Let's go trade for Jimmy Butler. We have Tobias Harris. Let's
We're-
choose Tobias over Jimmy.
So we're knocking them for tanking to get good ass players.
Well, but here's the
They've
thing.
accomplished zero. They've
Well, but
got
also-
nothing to show for it.
Wait. But they've done exactly what Indiana has done. We call them good.
But
No, I
no,
mean Indiana's been
Sixers didn't
competitive.
have success for
Yeah,
how
Indiana's
long?
never been
competitive.
bad. Indiana's
Indiana
never
was
been
the-
bad.
They
Yeah,
never
they're
had
kind of the
every
inverse
year.
Indiana, where they
Brother, we
really
said-
bottomed out to
We
get
said the
relevant.
last 10 years. Philly's been in the playoffs like 7 in the last 10 years.
But that's
The thing
because of Joel Embiid.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that's why I couldn't call them bad. I'm with you, Riv.
Yeah,
They also have
that's
obviously mismanaged some things around him. He also, I think, hasn't been the meteoric superstar in the big moments they would hope. And they have 4 top 3 picks, right? And a couple
what
of them are misses. Jaleel, Fultz.
What did the Sixers do
Rivers.
before Embiid? They were dog shit.
Andre Iguodala has some good years
Don't
there.
disrespect Thaddeus Young. Please don't disrespect Thaddeus
God,
Young.
Thad Young, he was in a class with Larry, LeBron. You're cooking. You're cooking.
Drew Holiday was an all-star with them too.
True.
But they
But
traded him for
where were
Nerlens
they
Noel.
going? What were they? First round exits at
It's
most?
not their fault. Ben Simmons was ass and he got emotional and didn't dunk the ball on Trae
But
Young.
they went and
And
still
Joel
got
Embiid
Harden
was a
because of
choker,
that.
bro.
They
Like-
made a move and still got Harden and still did not go to an ECF.
And they cooked and then Embiid choked. That's not on the
But
organization.
I'm
That's
also
on
saying,
Embiid.
like beforehand, like the Bucks were called a bad organization for years of listen, they were not good. I agree. But if you really want to go back in the day, I mean, they do have a championship too.
But the Bucks haven't hit on a single draft pick.
Well, the Bucks used to. I mean, I think you're going too far back, Drew. We're not talking about the 1971 Bucks. We're not talking about the 1980s Bucks with Sidney Moncrief and Terry Cummings and the boys. We're talking about the current regimes.
I understand.
Last decade or so.
But the Sixers really haven't done anything either.
I would put the Sixers right where I put Indiana, honestly, and they're okay. Personally.
I think Indiana's a legitimately good organization. I think Philly's closer to Milwaukee, probably.
Yeah, you also have to take into account Indiana's a small market team. It's much tougher for them to get a free agent.
Yeah, I agree with that, Logan. They are closer to Milwaukee.
I mean, I think they're a worse version of Milwaukee, kind of. I mean, the things we've criticized with Milwaukee, Philly's just been worse.
I agree, and they have no championship to ride on.
The one exception being Milwaukee's superstar player has delivered and in some ways carried them over the top in 2021, whereas Philly's superstar player has consistently
right now, though. I mean, Daryl Morey's still their guy, though, right?
Yes,
I trust Daryl Morey.
I like Daryl Morey too.
I feel like Philly's been better at drafting lately. I feel like they've been better at building better rosters. I just think the difference is Milwaukee's star player showed up and Philly's star player didn't. Like, I think Philly has built some really good, legit teams. And they're just like, if they choke, I can't sit there and be like, damn, that's the organization's fault that Embiid flopped again. You know?
Yeah.
That's fair.
I mean, obviously they get Maxey at 21. That's a great pick.
Great steal of a deal. You know
and McCain now.
Now they got Jared McCain.
If Giannis doesn't get hurt these last couple of years, like, we probably look at Milwaukee a little bit different. Like, at least they get out of the first round. Maybe they get into the ECF and lose to Boston or something. But if Giannis doesn't get hurt these last couple of years, like, it's the same shit with Embiid. Giannis was just healthy for that playoff run, and he went and won the finals. Embiid just didn't.
The only thing I'll hold Philly against is keeping Brett Brown for too long and choosing him over Jimmy Butler. That's the only thing.
So the final tally right now is the bad organizations in the Eastern Conference: the Wizards, the Bulls, the Hornets, Nets, Pistons, and Hawks. That's 40% of the conference. Now going to the West. Are these Western Conference teams bad organizations? Yes or no? The Warriors.
Hell no.
No.
Amazing organization.
Terrible. I hate them.
The Thunder.
Nope.
No.
The Rockets.
No.
The Lakers.
Wait.
The Rockets we can talk about.
Well, Daryl Morey just left.
No. They were great. They were great with Harden.
On me. I agree.
I would say
I'm
no.
wrong.
They've been consistent. They've been.
Drew had a full change of heart. Drew saw God in that moment.
No. OD, I just had to remember that James Harden was a Houston Rocket, and I was wrong.
I was going to
Even
say,
before Tracy McGrady, Yao Ming.
No, 100%. You're 100% right.
They get the Indiana tax just a little bit higher.
And now with the new regime, I mean, the rebuild's going well, right? Look at what they're doing right now.
That's what was in my head before that. They were just
they hit on basically every single draft pick. It feels like Jabari's their miss, and it's like Jabari. Like, look at all the other dudes that have fucking missed, and that's their miss.
They have arguably the best guard in the league.
Shout out to you for not mentioning Jalen Green as a miss, man. We're still holding out hope, man. Please.
Yep.
But these guys aren't misses to the extent that, like, they're as elite players.
Jalen
like,
Green's a huge miss.
Off them and get something.
Yeah.
Carson, don't vocalize it. Carson, we'll talk about it later. Don't vocalize it.
We'll talk about it off.
This is a pro Jalen Green podcast.
They hit on a generational player last year.
They did.
Carson, I'm the guy on the podcast that has to vouch for Şengün instead of Jalen Green.
You know, man, I'm an Amen Thompson dude at the end of the day. That's my dog. He's
That's
the best
his
asset
guy.
in the group. Yeah. That's because we're in the ball.
Yes.
Oh,
That's
dude,
a
Amen is
real guy there, man.
I mean, he's been so awesome this year, and he's just going to keep getting better, bro. He's literally the best athlete.
Okay, so Warriors, Thunder, Rockets, all good organizations. Next up, the Lakers.
Of course. We're amazing.
Well, they've had some frustrating.
It's LeBron. Please say it's LeBron.
LeBron tax. They get the LeBron tax.
Again, LeBron got Anthony. If it wasn't for LeBron, AD was not about to go to LA.
They get the LeBron
We're not
tax.
about to sit here and say LA's a bad organization.
No. They're on steroids.
I don't know.
The fact that they are the Lakers.
LeBron, what were they?
They were trending. They were terrible. Drew,
I think y'all were thinking too hard.
LeBron
Man. They
wasn't
got
like
LeBron.
20 years ago, bro. Like
They got LeBron James, Anthony Davis. Can we stop?
We're also just talking about a short 6-year, 7-year period, because before that, Kobe won back-to-back championships. Before that, they had Shaq. I mean, in every era, the Lakers have had success.
90s Lakers are underrated, bro.
They have a top 5 player of all time. They're good, and when they don't, they're kind of a joke.
But we could be honest. This has been their least successful decade time.
The 20
And you're
cents.
calling us, you're saying that we were a joke. Those joke of players got us Anthony Davis. Don't forget that.
No, absolutely. But again, because LeBron James was there.
Well,
Lakers never
but
do
why did they
anything.
get LeBron James? That was like, here's what's hard about the Lakers. We can bicker about some of the things that they've missed on in recent years, right? Like, obviously, you could have gone for some sort of trade. I think that obviously the lack of athleticism in their backcourt, the defense situation around AD, these are things that they haven't addressed as I would have liked to see. But the fact that they are the Lakers and they are the biggest brand in basketball and they are in the city that the most NBA players want to be in, like they didn't just get LeBron out of luck, bro. No, they got LeBron because they're the Lakers. They're playing the game on easy mode.
history.
So like,
Yeah, I
you
know.
can
That's what-
judge them.
But if they're playing on history, if they're playing because they've had all these great all-time players, it's like, well,
No, it's also because they're in LA.
We won a championship in 2020.
Cute.
We went to a
great.
WCF 2 years ago.
Guess what?
Lakers are a good organization.
It's
the Denver Nuggets.
good.
I guess yes.
No, yeah, they were. You're
Joker tax.
You know what? No, because I have time.
Joker
So
tax.
let's say the Boston Celtics don't win a championship last year. Let's just live in that hypothetical. They're a bad organization because
No.
they've been dog shit.
Wait,
When did the
Because they've
Celtics?
fallen short.
When's the
You
last
said,
time
"Oh,
the
we
Celtics
got
missed the
swept 2 years
playoffs?
ago." Oh, that doesn't matter. Oh, but you guys losing in the ECF year after year after
You're not
year,
cooking.
That's not dog
in the
shit.
finals.
Drew.
Yes.
I mean, the
I'm
Lakers
just wondering because
the
you guys
playoffs.
had your championship in 08 and then hadn't won since the 80s.
I think you're forgetting the era where the Lakers started Jeremy Lin and Nick Young. I mean,
There were some nasty years in LA.
That era of Lakers.
Jordan
basketball.
Hill and shit, man.
Bro, the Lakers from
Tax rate, bro.
2014 to 2017, they were the worst team in basketball.
They have a championship in every decade except the 90s.
Drew, I'm on your side. I'm just
Wait,
saying that's a
and-
crazy
no,
false
I know.
equivalency to say that
I
losing in the
know.
Eastern Conference Finals is the same thing as going 21 and 61. Those are not the same
Celtics
thing.
legitimately
The
have
Celtics
one bad
also had
season in
years where they were
2013.
bad.
The Celtics had
They've had-
one
they had-
year where they were
missed the
bad.
playoffs
They also
year,
had
brother.
the lick of the century, so I'll shut up.
2007 to now and missed one playoff.
I hate you guys
2014,
so
they
much.
were bad, dude. 2015, they were mid, and then
Yeah.
they were right back doing their thing.
I think it is fair to question the Lakers' organizational competence if LeBron's not there, because since Jeannie Buss took over,
Since LeBron took over.
Yes.
Since LeBron took over.
But like after the Kobe
Pookie.
era, towards the end of the Kobe era, when Jeannie Buss took over, I mean, there was a lot of mistakes in that era.
Remember
So-
Westbrook? Don't forget
Coaching,
Westbrook
too.
deal. Oof.
That was LeBron's fault.
Yep.
LeBron runs the
that's
organization, man. LeBron runs
Yeah.
the Lakers.
So the Lakers, I mean, they're good. We know they're good. The Nuggets.
Good.
Joker tax. Yep.
The mistakes that everybody gets on them for, bro, here's what I'll say.
We're not about to debate if the Nuggets are a bad
Yeah, bro.
organization.
Bruce Brown, they couldn't have met
They're
that.
just broke.
You
KCP,
said the
they
Bucks
offered,
were
he wouldn't take
lucky
it.
for Giannis.
Okay, well, let me explain to you why I
They
think these are
drafted
two
Jamal,
totally different
drafted
things.
MPJ.
They traded for Aaron Gordon.
Homegrown
All right,
talent.
listen, drafting MPJ, I can only give them so much kudos because we knew MPJ was going to be good. Teams were scared of him because
this is
of the
next
injury.
level hating,
Back
bro.
injury. It was
He was the
though.
number, and if he didn't have the
Someone's got
back
to-
injury, he probably would have been the number one guy off the board.
That's
Yeah.
not how this works. If you're
But
the
I'm
dude who
just
gets
saying
the guy
he
with
had
the
the
14th
talent.
pick and he's really good, then you made a great pick.
Yeah, what
We
about the Knicks? The Knicks drafted Kevin Knox. Like,
Yeah, that was idiotic of them.
But Drew, he also had a back injury again while he was playing with Denver year two.
we can't say, oh, the Nuggets are. We can't question their organization because they made the right decision.
And his back injury also permanently made him a worse basketball player. He had more burst. Like he got lower on his drives. He was way more comfortable as a
He's
ball
longer.
handler and creator in high school. Like they just banked on, this dude is an insane shooter at 6'10". If
Yo, he
his
was-
back
They
is
also
fucked,
stuck
fine,
with him because in the
give him that
NBA
chance.
he's
They
been
get credit for
hurt.
that.
Like
He
was
was
yeah,
the
he's
number
missed
one. He was
seasons
the
and
number
shit.
one player in the world before that back injury. Like he was a demon. He was one of them dudes we call the
The
demon.
Nuggets went on a run where they drafted some good players. Gary Harris at one point was good. Malik Beasley turned out to be good. Evan Fournier was a good player. And when he went to
Man,
the
they
Magic.
drafted Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert and traded both of them, man.
and they're fine. And they're fine. It doesn't
and
even
like-
matter.
Yeah, I mean, if we are looking a little further back, like they were really competitive and good in the early 2010s.
Bro, Ty Lawson,
2013,
Danilo
2013
Gallinari
they
and
won
the boys.
57 games, bro. Like,
Imagine if they keep D Mitch and have him with the Joker, man.
Bro.
What a duo.
oh my God.
Disgusting.
But yes, they're good. And here's what I was going to say to you, Drew. The difference between them and the Bucks core guys are all aging, are all getting worse. The Nuggets have their core 4 guys who are all still in their 20s. And while the Bucks have completely failed to put a competent roster around them, the Nuggets have done this draft and develop strategy. They hit on Christian Brown. Julian Strawther looks like a good pick. Peyton Watson has his flaws. He's a hell of an athlete and defender. He's playing better. They've kept their window open, whereas the Bucks shut the window around Giannis with their moves. So I think the Nuggets are in a much better spot.
I don't disagree overly. Last thing I'll say is, I'll say 2 things. 1, I'm sorry that my internet is ruining great conversation. Number 2, it helps when you have one of the all-time great offensive engines, and he makes all these pieces around them 100%. A lot better. Bruce Brown, KCP, they leave. Bruce Brown's been injured, and KCP's been having his worst offensive season since 2018, 2019. I don't know how long it's been, but it helps when Jokic is this unbelievable basketball player with the system that he has around him. He elevated Marcus Morris. He elevated Fausto Campazzo. I mean, there's just been so many players that he just makes better because he's Nikola Jokic.
I mean,
100%.
Yeah, like, I think you're right, but at the same time, I don't want to minimize the Nuggets organization because
it's fair.
They traded Carmelo Anthony and got better. It got better.
That team with Ty Lawson, Kevin
it was a cute team. Danilo,
Wilson,
facts.
Taylor, Danilo. Oh,
you can't remember
Aaron
a time when the Nuggets were bad, like genuinely bad. Like, when was the last time Denver was bad? Nikola Jokic or not? It hasn't been since drafting Carmelo, really.
Even that team with Jokic when they were the 6th seed and he was the MVP.
He was hurt.
He was a nice. They were hurt. But it was a nice. Jokic is the biggest Band-Aid on what was a pretty big mess.
Well, yeah, Drew, because their second and third best players missed the entire season.
Of course,
second and fourth best players.
Also, the gamble that they took on MPJ, he got banged up.
It worked though.
This is very selective what you're doing here, Drew.
I am nitpicking.
You're pushing
like
an agenda here.
No, the Nuggets are a great organization. Next up, the Phoenix Suns.
Good.
No.
You don't think so?
Are they bad? I don't think they're bad.
I think they're a good organization.
They're solid. I think they're solid.
Yeah.
All right.
They're not bad.
Are they the West Pacers, or am I being generous?
That's not wrong. I think they've had a lot more.
The West Pacers is the Jazz. You know what I mean? Like, with consistent winning.
Yeah.
Like,
Historically.
I hear you.
I think the Suns are more like the West Nets, but I don't know.
They're better.
Oh, bro, the Nets.
I hear him. Hold on. I hear him because Jason Kidd, Steve Nash, that kind of arc, and then the Nets go all in on a big 3. Suns go all in on a big 3. I hear where his mind's at.
I just wouldn't say the Suns are. I don't think they're good, but I don't think they're bad either. I think they're
solid for me. Like, they're like maybe the West Raptors without the ring. Like,
that's not a bad comp.
I think since the bubble, you call them a good organization. There was a decade period where they just sucked.
They ultimately took Book too, which, I mean, like, when we're getting on guys for draft and franchise guys, that pick hit, that has set them up for, a ton of success. I think
they also have new ownership too. Like, this is, you're talking about the bubble, you're talking about the last couple of years, so it's just different guys.
I also think all time they're like top 7 in win percentage or something. I know we're focused more recently.
Amazing, man.
Oh, incredible.
The Suns, I think they're good.
I agree.
Memphis Grizzlies.
No. They're good. They're good.
Oh, yeah.
They're good. Yeah, they're good.
Yeah.
The Clippers.
No, they're good. Lately, last 10, they're good.
They're solid.
Are the Grizzlies good?
I mean, like, last 10, like you have to give them the same tax you give the small market.
I love your facial expression.
Drew, why would the Grizzlies be
one of the more
bad?
consistent organizations.
They're one of the best developmental teams.
They just haven't won the chip, which I get.
They've been one of the most competitive teams in basketball for the last 15 years.
Their developmental team is amazing. Like, they just develop talent out the
100%.
asshole.
They go like fucking 12 deep now.
And they've been consistently in the playoffs. They're solid.
Rebounded
Grind era.
The Grand Grind era.
Moran era,
Drew, they're not elite. They're not great.
No.
All right, fair enough. That's where my mind's
I
going.
trust the Grizzlies. I trust the Grizzlies to build something going forward. Yes.
Give me a comp for the Grizzlies in the East. It'll make my mind easier.
A comp for the Grizzlies in the East.
It would probably be
they actually might kind of be the Pacers.
It would probably be the Pacers.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Multiple iterations, consistently good. They can't get free agents. They don't have that sort of pull.
I would say the late 2000s Hawks. This is what this team is to me.
But I don't know. It's hard to give East comps because only 60% of the East is good.
Yeah, that's true.
It's hard. I think the Grizzlies know, like, grit and grind era was awesome. They traded Mike Conley, and then they drafted Ja Morant right after. Like, no, the transition was seamless. It was seamless. The Clippers, I think this is an interesting one because post 2010, this is a good organization in my opinion.
This is the thing. They were terrible before that. Like, they were the laughing stock of the league level bad. Now they're a competent organization, right? You're able to bring in Kawhi and Paul George. It didn't work out, but they're still competitive. And listen, we kind of sometimes question, I think a lot of people questioned letting Paul George walk. Looks like the right move. You know, like, of course, they're not championship contenders, but I'd rather not be a championship contender than still not be a championship contender, but pay Paul George the money he got.
I'll say this. I think we walk into every offseason with the Clippers of maybe the last 5, 6, 7 years wondering about the health and not what the moves they made. I think we always talk about how good of the moves they've made with this team, and we're just talking about the health. Prior to this team, you had Doc Rivers having this team overachieve. You know, they were beating the Golden State Warriors with Kevin Durant and Steph. They gave them hell. So I think this over the last 10 years, we can say towards the back end, like maybe the last 6, 7, they've been really good.
Since drafting Blake Griffin,
Since Chris Paul got there.
I'd say post Blake Griffin, good organization.
They haven't had a non-competitive
Even
team
that down year when they didn't have stars with Pat Bev and
they were
Gallo and them.
Agreed.
So next team, the Dallas Mavericks.
Good
organization.
Yep.
Absolutely.
The Minnesota Timberwolves.
This is how my mind treated the Grizzlies. So I'm going to keep the same energy. I think the Grizzlies are a better organization. I'm going to say the Wolves are not a good organization.
I think the Grizzlies are much better than the
I agree.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
I mean, the Timberwolves just now are having their first legitimately good seasons in 20 years, with the exception of the one Jimmy year. And frankly,
I'll say no trending.
I'm not a fan of the Randall trade.
I agree.
I think they're mediocre. I wouldn't say bad because they're obviously a very good basketball team right now.
The Hawks.
Yeah. Right.
Yes. A better
Hawks. I think I have more faith in the Wolves than I do the Hawks.
For sure.
You too,
But I don't know.
Actually, I don't know.
I think Tim Connolly is a good GM, but I just don't like the Randall trade for them. So that kind of changes my perspective.
I love this conversation because there's so many ways that it can go. I will say, though, the Wolves have two moments that stand out. And Carson, you were kind of highlighting this. You have the KG era Wolves where KG is asserting himself as one of the best players in the league, arguably the best player at a moment in time in the league, both because of how great he was offensively, but mostly defensively. Then you fast forward a decade, 2 decades, and now finally we're back with the Wolves being a relevant organization. I agree with it. I think that they are a bad one trending towards being a good one.
Well, they also put some of the worst rosters in basketball around KG outside of 2004, 1 year.
I mean, didn't they
roster?
Correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't they have like their first round pick stripped from them for like 4 years though?
They paid Joe Smith behind closed doors.
So worth it.
Well, I mean, that gutted their future with KG, I feel like.
It did.
Yeah.
And they refused to re-sign Chauncey Billups. And then he went to the Pistons and won Finals MVP.
I would say bad trending to good. I'm with Drew on that one.
Yeah. So is this the first bad organization in the West?
It feels hard to even call them bad right now, though. I think they're fine.
They're not Pistons level bad.
No.
Okay. So we won't add them in. The Sacramento Kings.
Bad organization.
Good.
I mean,
trending good though. Trending good.
Yeah,
I'd say it depends. Are we looking past the Mike Brown
make
era?
up for like 30?
But
the Sabonis trade was an effectively good trade.
Yeah, but they were really bad. Like these two, they got to be more. I got to see a little more.
This is where I'm viewing this as like a regime thing, right? Yes. Obviously, the Vlade Divac era was terrible.
Horrible.
The Monty McNair, Mike Brown era has been good.
I agree.
So I wouldn't call them a good organization because the history's terrible, but I wouldn't say they're bad because they're doing.
I'm fine with that.
Right now.
For me, I'll say bad trending to good. I got to see just a little bit more.
I agree.
It's hard to put them in this category. I agree. The Spurs.
Amazing.
Good organization.
Yep. Got lucky as fuck with Wemby.
They had Tim Duncan.
That shit was rigged, man.
I'm just saying recently because they were in the mud post Tim Duncan.
We knew they was going to rig that shit. They ain't locked.
That was some bullshit.
We knew it was going to happen.
He should be a Piston.
He should.
The Trailblazers.
There we go. Not good.
They've
Not
also
good.
Right.
they've got hit. They really got hit with unlucky.
They also got good players, though. They had Dame. They had CJ McCollum. Like, they
did
didn't have
get
terrible
unlucky at the
rosters.
time of when they were amazing? Is that
Greg
what you mean?
Oden, Brandon
Okay.
Roy.
All right.
Like, it just
Cooking.
that team, man.
I mean,
But still,
that's
it's
the thing
been
with
some
Portland.
time since Greg Oden and Brandon Roy. You had some time to bounce back from that. You know
Well,
what I mean?
well,
That wasn't like 4 years ago.
bro.
You got lucky with Dame, like Weber
Hold
State.
on.
You know,
But-
like
But they went Brandon Roy, LaMarcus Core successful.
But
Then they went Dame LaMarcus Core successful. Then they went Dame CJ Core successful. Like, no, obviously they haven't been at the top of the sport at any time,
they'd have a ring.
but they've been very competitive until
Yeah.
now. For
They
15
also
years.
probably
fair.
let the
That's
core,
fair.
they probably let the core go a little bit too long. Again,
I don't
Dame
know.
had to
Yeah,
also
no, that's
say,
fair.
I want to get out too. But
this feels very Hawks to me. Just
Yeah.
like the kind of the Timberwolves conversation.
Can I ask you, are the Blazers Utah in a weird way?
Nah, I think Utah's been more consistent.
I like the Blazers
Utah
core though. Like, I
historically
like this young core.
I see that comp,
Chauncey,
though.
I don't.
You understand what I mean,
Chauncey
Logan?
Too much, but
Yeah, like I get what you're saying. Like they just haven't ever been like horrendous until now.
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
haven't.
I
Well,
would
in
call
recent
them. I'd put them in that mediocre tier.
Like, do
I
you think
think-
Utah's a bad organization? I know we haven't got there. I'm
No.
skipping ahead a little bit.
And even with Portland, like they haven't. Like I didn't hate the Scoot pick, right? The Klingon pick, I think, is a home run. So you know
Amazing.
what? Like,
Shane Sharp showing flashes.
yeah.
Your guy, Joel.
That's
It's
a- that's
hard
a gamble they
to
took,
say the
too.
Blazers are bad, and this is where I feel like we will run into the first bad organization in the West, the Pelicans.
They're terrible.
Yeah.
They're awful. They're bottom of the barrel. They're dog
Yeah, they're
shit.
bad.
They're
bad.
they're one of them East dog shit.
You have Chris Paul, you have Anthony Davis, and
you
neither
flop
works
both of
out
them.
like that. You know,
And then you have Zion, and I know that ain't all your fault, but damn.
Did they flop AD? They tried. Boogie getting hurt really fucked up a vibe.
AD, they could have tried after they were
starting
putting bad
wings were
teams around.
Quincy Pondexter.
Tyrese Evans and
You got
Eric
Darius
Gordon,
Miller out
like,
there, bro.
Come on, they had a lot
Dude,
of
Quincy Pondexter's a crazy pull, man. That's a crazy pull.
Listen, a lot
Then
of
they
2K15
kept Jonas Valanciunas for too long, man. Come on, this organization stinks.
Yeah, I think they're bad.
I tend to agree.
And then the last team in the West, the Utah Jazz.
I would say they're okay. They're solid.
I think they're a good,
Historically,
I think they're a good organization.
Yeah, they're solid to me. They're solid.
Yeah.
And I think they sold on their core when their guys were at a high. They sold Mitchell high,
I
they
agree.
sold Gobert high, and is Danny Ainge still there? Like I trust Utah.
I like Will Hardy
Yeah.
too.
So comparing the
Lordy.
East to the West, the East, 40% of the teams are bad organizations, and in the West, it's just one. And that's a big discrepancy in how we view the conferences and why there's so many better teams in the West right now. Any closing thoughts that any of you gentlemen want to have on this topic?
Shout out to the West.
It's a lot similar
West
in the
Coast, West
NFL.
Coast, baby.
A lot similar in the NFL. These East Coast teams, Giants, Jets, can't get shit right. Got some West Coast teams killing it over there. Just Silicon Valley, I guess. I don't know. There's some
Yeah,
smart
we got some brilliant minds over here. I'm not gonna lie.
The panic alert in the NBA, I have a list of teams here that you guys can give me what your panic alert is on them, 1 to 10.
This is where the conversation gets
The
snatched.
first team up, the New Orleans Pelicans.
Wait, how are we scaling this? We would like that.
10, you're panicking the most on them.
Okay, thank you. I'll start.
One, you're the most panic, Riv.
Okay, so 10, I'm panicking. Okay, so I'll start 10. Dehls, 10, where are we at again? Just want to.
1 means you're not panicking.
Okay,
10 means you are panicking.
fucked me, but he fucked me. So yeah, you did. Heavy. I'll say with
I
the
like watching
Pelicans, I'm at a 10. The Pelicans, I'm at a 10. Listen, your whole roster is depleted. I saw this report yesterday that said Zion is not remotely close to returning. That shit made me audibly laugh. Like I laughed out loud at that because damn, bro, like this is just a team that hasn't like. I'm not saying Willie Green is the greatest coach ever. I'm not even saying he's a good coach. But damn, when is he ever going to get an opportunity to really coach with his guys out there for a consistent season? Like he hasn't really got the chance. DeJounte Murray got injured in the first game of the season after having a triple-double. Herb Jones is down. Trey Murphy was out coming into the season. Zion is out. The only reliable guy has been B.I., and it's unfortunate because B.I. gets all the criticism and all the blame, but damn, he's the most probably consistent, healthy player they've got out
And
to
he's
2
hurt now
hours.
too.
Yeah, so it's like now he's out. You didn't come in with a center. Misi looks good, but your team is banged up, so you can't even really see how that looks. You know what I'm saying? So I think I'm at a 10 because I don't know where you go with this roster. I don't know what you do in the offseason. I don't think you pay BI, but you don't really have many options. You just pay Trey Murphy. And I think you're looking at Herb Jones and Trey Murphy as that next defensive wing tandem, kind of like how you look at Cam Johnson and Mikal Bridges in Phoenix back a couple years ago. So what do you do with Zion? Do you finally trade him? Do you start over the rebuild? No, you really can't do that. You just traded DeJounte Murray. You have a couple cool picks. They have the Bucks pick too, if I'm not mistaken. So praying that the Bucks are pretty bad, then they can just go in there. But I don't trust in their development too much. I just don't trust in their luck. I'll say that because this team has been one of the teams that's been unfortunate with an extreme amount of bad luck. So I'm at a 10 with this team. I just don't see them even pushing for a play-in because I just don't know how healthy they could be.
Yeah, and I don't trust them to build a cohesive roster around Zion. I don't hate their pieces, but I'd say I'm at a 10 too. I predicted the Pelicans to miss the playoffs in the preseason just because of like my injury concerns, but I do think they have a route out though. Like healthy Herb, healthy Trey around Zion. You trade DeJounte, you trade Brandon Ingram, you get guys that work around Zion. I don't think they're like, don't get me wrong, I don't think there's like a move on the table that they could make it where they'd be like bona fide, real deal contenders, but I think it's like a solid competitive 6 to 8 seed. I think there's moves, but for this year, in the context of this year, you were talking about shutting the Sixers down, man. I just shut the Pels down. I think this is a team that makes sense to.
They might shut themselves.
They shut themselves down, bro. Their 8 best players are hurt.
Dude, they started, man.
The issue with that, Logan, and I love Zion. I love him. There are very few players I like to watch more than him. I have genuine concerns about his drive, his motor to be a great NBA basketball player. And maybe I'm overreacting to something I shouldn't be. His physique is alarming. It's genuinely concerning. He was a generational athlete. Forget about basketball player. Forget about he was a generational athlete. He was a 6'6" power forward / small forward who could jump out the gym and out-position himself because of his elite athleticism. You talk about building around Zion. I don't know if right now, and I'm saying this as a legitimate fan of Zion, he is one of my favorite players. I do not know if I would build around Zion because of how untrustworthy he is as my number one. You listed out a beautiful blueprint. Herb, Trey, put more spacing around him. You have Jordan Hawkins now. You go and you trade for a center. That was my main concern for them coming in. But Yves Misi has been playing some really good basketball for them. It doesn't matter because of how injury depleted they are. And with Zion, your number one, being so uncertain around whether you can trust him or not, this is why the panic meter is at an 100 for the Pelicans.
I agree.
It's out of 10. You hit it on. Sorry, go ahead, Carson.
No, you go ahead, Dehls.
Oh, dude, you're so nice to me.
Of course.
I think it's a 10 because every angle you look at it, there's no saving grace here. Like, sure, the team is going to get healthy again, but their star player is injury prone. Listen, if everyone's healthy and everyone's back, well, you can't really rely on your star player. So even once everyone's back, you don't think he's going to be playing 70 plus games every single season. And then you look at the rest of the Western Conference, there might be 8 to 10 teams better than us going into next season. So where do we really stand where our star player can't stay healthy? We're having one of the most unlucky seasons in terms of injuries because everybody who has contributed to this team is banged up and our star player is not someone we can rely on, right? This has been multiple seasons of Zion Williamson. We thought we got one full season of Zion, right? We have one season where he's playing like a majority of
man was it beautiful. It was awesome.
Last year he was healthy until he wasn't, right? He was dominant in that playing game and then all of a sudden it just came crashing down. They lost that game to
Never
LA.
been so happy to watch another player kill my favorite team. Go ahead.
But man, it's at a 10. Like we're going to talk about the other teams like Philly, Milwaukee, like they'll be on their list as well. But this is one of these teams where it's really hard to find a way out of this and spin in a positive light.
I completely agree. I'm at a 10 with them as well. And this season is cooked, right? But it goes beyond that, because really their only path forward to being a very good basketball team, in my opinion, is the layout that Logan put forth, right? Where it's Zion, it's Herb, it's Trey. You maximize the amount of shooting and athletes you can put around him. You upgrade the center position. Ideally, you get a better primary creator from the perimeter than what you've had, where you're sort of trying to do like this amalgamation of these dudes with CJ and DeJounte and BI, but like none of them are really good enough and the fit is clunky and you're lacking some volume 3-point shooting there. But all of that is contingent upon Zion being consistently healthy. And unfortunately, I don't think there's a reason to believe that that is going to be the case. So even beyond that, you can't get out of this situation. Like, I didn't like the DeJounte trade because I thought it just made the fit clunkier and I thought it locked them even more into this sort of weird core. But that's where they're at right now. They have a bunch of dudes who I don't think work really well around their best player, and a best player who is arguably the least available star in basketball. So that's a really, really bad spot to be in.
It's a 10. I think it is hard to build a team around a guy that you can't rely on to stay healthy. And I think it's been a gift and a curse for the Pelicans because they've went into these drafts and they've drafted some home runs. Trey Murphy, Herb Jones. I think Yves Misi is going to be a home run as well. I think Jose Alvarado, not a drafted guy, but they hit on these under the radar players. But the issue is that you can never go into a draft if you're the Pelicans and say, how do we best fit this roster around Zion? And the reason why is because they don't know if Zion's going to be available. So I think that's the dilemma the Pelicans are faced with. And right now, the panic meter is at 10. You know, this is a team that is going to miss the playoffs. Everybody's hurt for them. So quite easily for me, it is a 10 right now. Next team up, the Bucks.
I am going to go with 8. I'm going to go with 8.
That's high.
Yeah, I think they're starting to get together. They're starting to figure it out a little bit. They've had some good games against some bad competition. Well, let me not say bad because everybody in the East is trying to figure things out. But yeah, essentially bad. Giannis has been able to backpack and get in his mode for some W's. But I think the end goal, and listen, not every team's end goal, end result is to win a championship. But I think this team is one of those teams where they wanted to win the championship with Giannis and Dame. That's been the prize. That's been the goal, especially when you have Giannis in his prime. And I think I'm at a panic because I don't think this team has an avenue to get better or improve this roster to where they can get to that goal. I think this team is probably a first or a second round exit. I think this team's perimeter defense isn't going to get any better. I think Giannis is going to be able to gut out, a playoff berth for this team along with Dame. But you just look at Brook Lopez and how old he is and how he looks on the court. You look at the guys in Gary Trent Jr. and Taurean Prince and all these in DeLon Wright. I just do not trust this roster. So I'm at an 8. I think, they're slowly figuring it out. But once again, I still don't feel like there's a way where this team can confidently get better.
Now, Riv, I'll actually backpack because as you're talking, I understand your sentiment. With Milwaukee, with Giannis, with Dame, with Brook, with Chris, who obviously has been banged up and has been able to perform, you can argue because this is a championship or bust team, the panic should be out of 10 because this isn't a contender. This isn't a great team right now. This is barely a good team. You can argue it's not a good team because they're 6-9. But Giannis is playing at such a level that he is carrying that they're not one of the worst offensive rated teams. They're not one of the worst defensive rated team. Right now, defensively, I believe they sit dead 15, and then in offensive rating, they're 18. And a lot of that is because Giannis has been so unbelievably great this season. And Dame, he has his ups, he has his downs. That's been probably the most disappointing thing for me because with a whole season with one another, you would have thought that this offseason, I think that was one of your main points this season talking about the Bucks, Joel, was you thought you'd see a better version of the duo of Giannis and Dame, and we failed to see that thus far. And of course, no Middleton obviously is going to sting. And with Brook Lopez getting older, there's only so much you can do as him being your defensive anchor, him being your rim protector. This is a 10 when you think of it as the Bucks are in championship or bust mode, and they are not contenders.
Well said.
Yeah, I'm with you.
That's well said.
Think because you have not only are they not contenders, but they've mortgaged their entire future. right? Like, it's one thing for the Pelicans, because the Pelicans, even if you thought they were going to like make the play-in, it's like the absolute ceiling for that team is making the first round, right? Getting out of the play-in. For the Bucks, it's win a championship, and not just win a championship, but you don't have draft picks for damn near the next decade. So you have to be at least competitive over the span. Because listen, you won the championship a couple of seasons ago. Congratulations. If you don't even make another ECF appearance with this Dame and Giannis combination, and now you're going to tell your fans we're probably going to be terrible for the next 7 seasons because we're probably going to have to trade Giannis. Of course, Dame, maybe on the last year we could get something for him. Chris Middleton, Brook Lopez are aging guys. You don't have a future either. We just went over their draft history, haven't been able to hit on any draft picks. Look at their last couple of head coaches, haven't been great there too. So if you're not going to win with this core immediately this year or next year, and who knows if there's a next year, and you don't have any future, you're sounding the red alarms like we're in a bad position.
They're spiraling towards losing Giannis, really, is the trajectory that they're on. I think that, they're basically at a 10. I mean, this is kind of worst case scenario. I don't think that there's a path for the defense to improve. Frankly, I think it's worse than the 15th ranked defense in basketball. In reality, offensively, the fit is still just not there. And Dame hasn't had the bounce back that I would have hoped for, but really, I just think the coaching is incompetent. The athletic limitations around Giannis are so glaring, and this is the stuff that they haven't addressed for several seasons, so it's not surprising when it doesn't work out, and this is where you end up.
Yeah, I'm at a 7.96 with them, trending to 8 right now.
Why the 9.6?
Because
seems low.
Part of me still feels like, listen, they are in a shooting slump, especially to begin a year. They're Gary Trent Jr.
Let it go, man. Let it go, man.
Listen,
brother, they have so many other problems other than shooting.
I think the Bucks are done, but with how Giannis is playing, I do think they make the playoffs still.
Yep.
And listen, if it doesn't work out, I'm blaming Dame. I'm blaming Dame. Everybody
What about pockets? What about your boy Doc?
Yeah.
No. Everybody talked about how Dame just needed to play with another superstar level player. This is the first time he's been with one, and it hasn't panned out. It's been worse than everybody anticipated.
Before it was 40.
But Joel, let me ask you this. Is Dame the biggest problem, or is the roster around them, and specifically the complete lack of athleticism and the incapable defensive personnel, the big problem? Because I looked at this year, and I think that even if Dame were playing better, this still wouldn't be a very serious basketball team.
I think if Dame showed more of an effort on defense, not everything would be masked, but I think it would help that team a lot if the leaders on the team actually show that they like playing with each other. I think that's a big thing. When the top players aren't bought in, everybody else is just flowing in motion and is just whatever about it. And that's kind of the feeling I've got from the Bucks. I do agree with the limitations of the team. The offense is the only thing that can save them from being a total disaster, really. And that's because they have Giannis, and then Dame, when Giannis doesn't play, still very much looks like the Portland version of himself. But it's just too often than not when I see them play together, one of them is taking a huge step back and they're both not balling at the same time.
Yeah,
So
look, I'm Dame. Let me show you that I can play defense, something I've never done in 12 years. And hey, look, I'm 34 years old. Why are we blaming Dame, man? Let's look at Doc Rivers first. He sucks. Then let's look at the front office. They
doing
suck.
a better job than Nick Nurse.
Nick Nurse, look who he. No, he's not.
Nick Nurse's players haven't been healthy. He's not doing a good job, but
he's stuck with dude with a podcast and Joel Embiid. At least he has to deal with that.
Yo, Joel, are we just at the point that Riv has no loyalty? He just called Paul George dude with a podcast.
Bro, I hold my players accountable.
Doesn't ever surprise you.
he's a good leader.
There's
bro.
a part of me that I am surprised. I thought there were certain players that were untouchable.
It's only Steph, man. It's only Steph.
Oh my God.
I think he's being a good
Steph's like
journalist.
38. Let's wait till Steph's like 38 years old and see if still Riv is gonna rep him.
Oh, brother, Steph, it'll be great.
You're gonna be on like fucking Jared McCain or something. Be like, I've been on Jared McCain since he was fucking 13 years old or something.
He can't say that because he was low on Jared McCain.
I agree. I don't listen when I'm low. When I'm low on you, I don't go back. Giddy, Sengun, I just stay away. I don't say anything. I don't say a word. That's
next team on a panic meter, the Philadelphia 76ers.
We're all at a 10.
I'll give them An 8.5. I think it's a disaster. Yeah. But also, here's the thing. I think there's clearly more room for improvement for them than there is for the Bucks. I think the Bucks, obviously, you get Middleton out there, but like their core flaws are what they are. They cannot be improved upon. The Sixers, you get your best players out there, healthy, playing better, getting more of a sense for playing with each other, which they don't have. And it's like they will get better. I think both these teams are cooked, but I think that Milwaukee is more of a finished product, whereas Philly, a lot of this is bad health luck up to this point. And like, listen, I'm out on them big picture, but they're going to improve by more than Milwaukee.
But I'll say, before you go, Drew, I just want to say one thing. I think that's understandable. I think the only problem in that right there is Giannis is the most available player out of both teams. So being that he is the most available player, he's probably the best floor raiser out of all those guys. I trust him more to will this team to the playoffs as opposed to Philly. Yeah, we can think, like, in theory, like you're right, theoretically, when they get back healthy, Dehls said it earlier, they can't get worse than this. So theoretically, if they get back healthy, they should be better. But like, when do they get back healthy? With Giannis, I know on the floor, on the court, he's giving you 35 and 12.
So what was the number that you gave them, Carson?
I said 8.5. I honestly might be at a 9. I mean, I think this team's in a bad spot. I just think they're in a slightly less horrible spot than Milwaukee.
I say that because if you look at Milwaukee's expectations and you look at the Sixers' expectations coming into the season, they're exactly the same. They have two older stars, and you have Paul George and you have Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid obviously has not been available. Paul George also hasn't been available. I'm talking for the majority of their career. Well, not majority, but these most recent years, I'm going to give Paul George the benefit of the doubt, of course. But realistically, your expectation coming to the season with this big three was that we can compete for a championship. We're trying to go and slay the dragon of the Boston Celtics. And where we stand right now, they are not that. They are not contenders. So if that's the case, I'm keeping consistent. I'm giving the Bucks a 10. I'm giving the Sixers a 10 because this is not a championship team right now.
Definitely
also,
not.
I didn't get to mention that Chris Middleton is coming back for the Bucks.
Coming soon.
That makes me feel a little bit better about them.
That fixes it.
They're back for the league. Middleton's back.
Demon home, Chris Middleton.
Athletic and defensive demon Chris Middleton.
Let me ask you guys something in regards to the Sixers. They're injured right now. Let's say history reverses itself, and instead of usually getting hurt later in the season, this is something where the Sixers are actually healthy to end the season. And everybody, Paul George, Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, Jared McCain, everybody that they have that is meaningful is healthy. If they are the 7th seed, the 6th seed in the East when it's all said and done, is that not a team that you think could beat the Cavs or the Knicks in a playoff series?
Let me play devil's advocate here real quick for the 76ers.
Oh.
I think they are doomed to be bounced in the first or second round this year. I think that is it. And if they go up against the Cavs or Knicks, I expect them to steamroll Philly. All I'll say about Philly, I'll put them at like a 7 on this scale. And the only reason I say that is because Milwaukee's window is completely shut. They have problems, like Carson was saying, that can't change. The Sixers have Paul George under contract. They have Embiid under contract. They have Maxey under contract. And this is their first year together with an entire new roster top to bottom. So all I'm saying is this year I'm out on Philadelphia. But next year they'll have a year together where they've all played together. These guys are under contract. The optics aren't great no matter how you dress it up, right? This is an older team with injury-prone stars. And I don't like Joel Embiid as my number one. But all I'm saying is they're going to be back here next year. And they don't have the glaring, unfixable holes that Milwaukee's roster does. I think there's a way that in a year from now, Philadelphia could be in a much better spot where they're more competitive. I wouldn't pick either of these teams to win a title or figure it out this year or next, but I think Philadelphia is in a much more enviable spot than Milwaukee. So I'm a little bit more optimistic about Philly than Milwaukee. I would put them on different numbers.
I think
they're only like one tick below for me because even still, like you go into next season, Joel Embiid, like we're going to buy into Joel Embiid, probably not. We're going to buy into Paul George, probably not. I think the biggest difference is just this huge 5-6 first-round pick elephant in the room with Damian Lillard, where it's like we mortgage our entire future. It's like Paul George. The contract is probably going to age terribly. I think we knew that even when he signed it. We just didn't think it was going to be year one, maybe, who knows, like this early on. But at least you didn't give up like the entire future. You just gave a bad contract out, which is a bit easier to bounce back from. And also just trust their front office a bit more, right? Like Tyrese Maxey was a hit in the like the 20s. Jared McCain looks like a good pick in kind of the late teens. So at least they have a bit more of a track record of drafting and developing guys. Type shit.
That was some real ass shit, bro. You shut the whole room up.
Yeah, mic drop.
Speechless.
Wisdom.
Okay, we're back. Drew's back. Okay, let's.
To your question, Joel.
I don't
real
know
quick.
That's what I was waiting for, Carson. I was waiting for you to answer our question.
I laughed.
Yeah.
I didn't know if Drew was frozen or you just
I couldn't
stared
tell
straight.
either.
Oh, he's frozen again. For sure he's
Okay,
frozen.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
When he put his hands on his face earlier, I thought his hands were on his face just because the whole time we were talking about the Pelicans. I
I
was
actually
like,
think
damn,
he's frozen
I know
again.
he likes
Yeah.
Zion, but he doesn't.
Yo,
like
that shit killed me. That's why I was just like, okay, like, all right, cool. To answer your
Carson-
question though, Joel.
No, I was asking Carson, dude.
Damn.
Riv, you and I speak as one. Man.
Move to the back.
Wow.
Whoa.
Wow.
911, we got him, yeah. We got him. Well, Carson, you can answer though, because clearly he didn't give a fuck about what I thought.
I care, man. But real quick, obviously, I think that if you're going to compare them to some of the other teams in that range, right? Like if it's the Pacers or if it is that like the Pistons are able to get in there as a 7 or 8 seed, like, yeah, I would rather see those teams by a lot than Philly just because of the talent that Philly has on the floor. But the standard wasn't like, ooh, are they the sort of team that has the potential to make these teams uncomfortable? The standard was they're going to be there with them, right? They're going to be there with New York. And I would confidently pick either of those teams. New York, Cleveland is just awesome all around over a Philly. So like, yeah, they'd be scary in that context. And what Dehls said about how that's going to be the narrative at the end of the year, I 100% think is true. The Sixers are not a 22-win team, right? Like when they're healthy, they're going to rattle off some wins. But I still think that they're clearly below the teams they were supposed to be competing with. And that's really the standard that matters.
Now, what do you think, Riv?
I think just in terms of them versus Cleveland, New York, I think both teams, well, maybe more so Cleveland, they have more continuity. They believe in their core a little bit more. You know, they're playing much more as a team. They have a cohesive offense. Defensively, they're bought in 1 through 5. As for New York, they're starting to gel. They're starting to figure it out. And I just think those are two teams that are much better. I think Cleveland's more deeper than both teams, but I think New York, you know, they're 1 to 7. I trust a lot more than Phillies. So that's really how I am. I think Philly, they're in a situation where they're praying and they're hoping. Like Carson, they're praying for Carson's world in which they're healthy. They can jump into the playoffs at a 7th, 6th seed, grab one of those teams that we think are going to be there, sneak into the second round. And then they're like, all right, well, if we're in the second round, why the fuck can't we make it to the third, right? Like we're just looking at it and there's one more round. That's where they're thinking. They want to be healthy and in a good spot in April. And right now that doesn't look, you know, great, but you know, it's only November, so we'll see.
Okay, and now the next team on the panic meter, the Dallas Mavericks.
Yeah.
This is a 0 for me too.
Who said 0?
I guess. Yeah.
Logan said 0.
I'm not. I'm sorry. What are we panicking about the Mavs for?
Let's ask Drew.
Clay's career.
Let's ask Drew.
Oh, listen, I would also have them as a 0. They're not healthy.
Thought you were going to hate.
Yeah.
I was praying
There's
for
nothing
it.
really to assess right now because they're not healthy.
Yeah, I just
Luka's
put them on the
dead.
panic meter list because you expect that they would be like one of the top 5 teams in the West right now, but injuries have struck them. But they're one of 3 teams to have a top 10 offensive and defensive rating. I do think that they've just lost a lot of close games, and that's the reason why their record doesn't speak to how good I think they are.
Well, and also Luka, sorry, real quick, like the depth stuff, losing clutch games, absolutely. Luka's been bad in the clutch, though. Luka hasn't played like the player that we expect him to be. So I'm not worried about the Mavs at all.
I was looking at a shirtless photo of Luka from a couple years ago.
That's a
No. This is fair. No, it's relevant.
Hey, so was
because-
I. Yeah, preach.
No, I was looking at the same
Be
photo.
careful with a couple years ago. He's only like 25, brother.
I think that, I'm just wondering, what happened? Luka,
He ain't D Mitch.
That
he
Dallas
just-
food be hidden.
I don't know. Like I wish that we can have a shirtless Luka photo currently.
Me too,
to
bro.
compare
Me
the two.
too. Tell him.
Rookie Luka was quick. He was dunking off too. Like he was athletic.
Yeah,
and
but
now
it's not like-
I've seen that.
It's not like it hasn't come with its positive trade-offs, right? Like he's built out his post game. He's become a better post player. He's gotten that more of that grown man strength. So I don't know.
What
if
would
that's
you
the-
rather have?
What would I rather have? I mean, I think Luka continues to get better. The Luka that we see right now is also a significantly better jump shooter than he was when you had that more slim Luka a few years ago.
I think the big thing is that he's just conditioned enough where he can go for however long he needs to go. You know what I mean? That was a problem in the playoffs last year. Hey, yo. Hey,
You said it, not us. You
He
said it,
went
not us.
rounds. He went past the first round, the second round, the third round. He made it 4 rounds last year.
That brother
4
said,
rounds.
I love
He's
that,
better than
bro.
me.
He choked in the 4th round, though. Let's be honest. He did not perform.
No,
He
he
had
did.
performance anxiety. But that's tough.
Bad.
happens to the best of us, man.
Amen.
Next team, the Minnesota Timberwolves. Carson, you don't like the Randall trade, so where are
don't.
they on your panic meter?
I would probably have the Timberwolves at like a 4 or something. I just think that they have very clearly regressed from last season. I think that they've lost something defensively. I think part of that is the value that a cat could provide on the glass as a secondary rim protector. At the very least, he's a bad defensive center. He was a fine defensive power forward within this system and actually did some really good stuff for them, like specifically guarding the post that Randall just doesn't bring. I also think he's a better offensive player. And I think that you really see that now that he's unleashed in New York. So that's really the biggest thing for me. Like Dante obviously hasn't been as good as they would have hoped. The other concerning aspect to me, though, is how bad Mike Conley's been, because Mike Conley is a vitally important basketball player to Minnesota. It's not always flashy, but just considering some of the skill limitations and the lack of ball handling they have around Ant, Conley has been that dude who is making consistently good decisions, who is knocking down 42% of his threes, who's able to get to floater range with some consistency. And just having a player who is skilled and smart like that is important. And he's really, really been struggling to start this year. I think he'll shoot better, but it does look like he's taken a step back. And at his age, that's not surprising. So I just think Minnesota's gotten a little bit worse in a few different areas. And so I wasn't the highest on them before the year, but like if we're talking about some of these comparably slow starts in terms of record, I'm definitely more worried about them than Dallas. I'm much more worried about them than Denver, who's cleaned up the record stuff too, but a lot of people are freaking out about early in the year. I don't love Minnesota.
Are you more worried about the Suns, or are you more
I'm more worried about
the
Minnesota for sure. I've been impressed by the Suns. I mean, the Suns suck because they're not healthy right now. And they won a lot of clutch games when KD was on the floor. They weren't like a juggernaut 8-1. They were like we won 6 clutch games 8-1. But the areas that I was looking for them to improve, especially defensively, getting more athletes on the floor with Royce O'Neal and Ryan Dunn, they've improved there. Personally, I never thought the Tyus Jones move was a needle mover. I don't think it is to this day. I think their issue offensively is they don't have real advantage creators. They don't get easy shots at the rim, but they're shooting more threes now. I think that's been a positive trade-off for them versus more of the mid-range stuff. Phoenix, I viewed as being probably a tier below Minnesota coming into the year, and now I actually think that Phoenix is a slightly better team than Minnesota when they're at full strength.
Yeah, the one that I struggled, well, coming into the season, the two teams that I struggled between the two spots, the 4 and the 5, was Minnesota and the Suns. This Wolves team, offensively, it's an interesting one because Anthony Edwards is shooting an insane volume of threes. However, they're going in. Not much to really say on that. We asked the question whether it can translate from the postseason to the regular season. We've really seen him be a great three-point shooter there. We're seeing him be less aggressive at getting to the cup, and I really believe that that's because it is a less spaced floor, especially now that you have Julius Randle and Gobert on the court at the same time. With Cat there, you knew that there was going to be a lot more spacing. I just look at this team and just don't love the pieces around it offensively. I know they're top 12 in offense, top 10 in defense, or top 10 in offense, top 12 in defense. So I'd say my panic meter for them is around a 4, around a 5. It's just down the stretch when it's going to be meaningful basketball. Offensively, it's going to be a lot of Anthony Edwards, but is there someone that he can rely on a consistent night in, night out basis? And I know Karl Anthony Towns wasn't that for him consistently, but in the series to get to the WCF, Karl Anthony Towns was that. Can Julius Randle be that? That's something I'm unsure of. That's where I have my reservations with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Can't really trust this offense. Not sure. I believe I agree with you. The volume of threes, that's been exciting. Can I trust the 3-point shooting for the Minnesota Timberwolves? Is Anthony Edwards going to continue to shoot at this crazy of a clip? That's something I'm unsure of, especially when I look at the surrounding pieces. And now recent report coming out that Dante it can be a potential trade piece. That's another shooter that you're losing. That was supposed to be a positive when you traded Karl Anthony Towns. You get more help on the perimeter and you get more spacing. I guess the only positive to come from that is maybe we see more minutes from Rob Dillingham and you can see what the kid gives you. But outside of that, I really do have my reservations about how sustainable is this 3-point onslaught by the Timberwolves.
I'm pretty worried about Minnesota, and maybe I'm falling into the first year new team experiment. First year with Cat and Rudy wasn't good either. Nope. And it looked awful and everybody was panicking on Minnesota, but I feel like this team has a different vibe to it. Would any of you guys be surprised if in 2 years half of Minnesota's starters weren't on the team? Mike Conley, Randall, and Gobert.
No.
Yeah, sure.
I was thinking Jaden.
Well, I think Jaden is still a long-term piece for them. I do, even if the offense isn't what you think.
No,
he's available, brother.
You got to hold on. I get it.
He's far from untouchable.
Right now, Rudy Gobert, I don't know if he's going to be on his team in 2 years. Julius Randle, I think they made the Cat trade to get off of Cat's contract. I don't believe Minnesota and Tim Connelly. I don't believe he made the trade because he wanted Minnesota to make it back to the conference finals. I believe he made the trade because he said, listen, we're going to have no flexibility and we have to have some flexibility to build around Ant when he's in his prime. So I'm not surprised that they're worse right now. And then Conley's aging. I think the Timberwolves are heading into a new era. And if we're talking about this current Timberwolves team, my panic meter is pretty high. It's at a 6 or 7 because I don't think this is the future of the Timberwolves. I think this was a stopgap year and let's get off the books. Let's get clean. Let's have some flexibility and then let's move forward. I never believed this was going to be a better team than the team that made the conference finals last year.
Yeah, I think I'm right between y'all. I'm right in between the both of you guys. One's on top, one's on the bottom.
Who has your backside?
I don't really know. It's however you want to picture it, man. It's your fantasy. But I'm right at 5.
Who do you have in front of you?
You'll be next.
Oh, here we go. I like that. Let me ask you a question. If you have a man and a female, right, and they're ass naked, and there's you have to get between them, right?
He's asking the important questions.
Yeah, which way are you going? Are you going dick to a female's vagina, or are you going dick to dick?
Can I ask a question for Dehls real quick first?
Yeah.
Can we swap the woman out for a man?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. All right, perfect.
Which way are you going?
Who says? Well, if it's 2 men, I mean, what am I like?
Woman and male. What you doing? Which way
you
going?
have to go tip to tip, man. You have to show dominance.
Tip to tip.
You have to show dominance. You can't back down.
I didn't even realize that was an option. I thought that we were in a single file line.
No, you got to push your way through.
No, on the left, on the right, you got to squeeze right through.
No, either way, you're touching something.
You got to go tip to tip, man.
I mean, I don't know. Ass to dick.
As a grown ass man, if you go butt to tip,
I can't, because this is the thing, Drew. While you're going tip to tip, you got to look him in the eye.
Yeah, exactly. And you make sure you let him know. I'm the man.
I can't do that.
I'm not worried. I go tip to tip, and I don't give a fuck.
I'm going ass to dick.
I can't do that.
I need to look at that woman at all times.
I mean, that's nothing new for this guy. Nothing new at all. Nothing new.
Dehls, you're
Timberwolves conversation.
Timberwolves. Okay, so I had Timberwolves, like I mentioned, between you guys at a 5. The reason is because last season, Joel, you were super high on them, so I want to give you credit. but they probably overachieved, right? Like Anthony Edwards is 22 years old and he's going on a historic playoff run. I mean, let alone nobody is usually as good as Ant-Man at 22 in the regular season, let alone elevating in the playoffs and doing a lot of the work to carry them to the WCF. I know, in the second round, game 7, all of that type of stuff, fine, but he was the best player on that team and it's not even a conversation. So you go into this season and even with the trade, you're still expecting them to be contenders. You're still expecting them to be within that top 4 in the Western Conference. And we sit here, they're 8-7, they're 10th in the West, and everyone's played. Their top 6-7 guys have all played 15 games outside of Mike Conley, who's played 13. And as Carson mentioned, it's not like Mike Conley's this real difference maker. You have Julius Randle, who sure gives you some lapses on defense and not the highest of IQ plays, but he's still, mostly efficient. You have Ant Edwards, as Drew mentioned, playing out of his mind. Jaden McDaniels is a separate conversation because I mean, he was supposed to be the guy next to Ant, right? He was supposed to be the Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. Not looking great right now. So that's probably their biggest issue outside.
How long? How long are we
when
supposed
Julius
to
Randle
wait?
leaves and he gets more offensive
Brother, by that time, Jason's been like 27. When Jaylen Brown was 27, he was all NBA player.
He needs more offensive skill.
When he was 27, he was a Finals MVP. Dehls.
Oh shit! I think it's 28. Facts.
The vibes are just off in Minnesota. I think that's the biggest thing. The vibes are just off.
Well,
So
that's
where
probably
did
the biggest thing to the fact that they fumbled the offseason. And honestly, maybe my number should be higher because I was coming into this I wasn't at high in Minnesota before the year. They've underwhelmed, but big picture, I think if they messed up, I think that although it was an outside shot, they had a title window open with Cat because I believe in him that much more as an offensive number 2, and I think they're better on both ends of the floor with him. And I think specifically, right, I mean, Denver isn't the top dog in the West anymore because that's OKC now, in my opinion. But they had the best formula to beating Denver, and they gave that up. So, yeah, I don't like what the Timberwolves have done. Absolutely. So maybe I should be higher than a 4. Maybe I should be at a 5, too.
You want to be right next to me, huh?
I would love to be right next to you.
No, he wants to be on top of you.
You guys are around.
Well, that's another time.
No, he wants to be with you, it seems.
I want to be tip to tip with you, Dehls.
Real.
Oh, you guys are the same height, so you would definitely be tip to tip.
No, it literally.
But I would be the alpha, clearly.
I was gonna dominate you.
But Dehls just said earlier. Dehls said he couldn't do it. He couldn't go tip to tip and look at another man.
So I'm behind you, Dehls.
I'm in the Drew school, man. I believe in Drew's teachings.
I'm at a 5. I'm at a 5. This team, back-to-back losses to the Blazers, lost me. Lost to the Raptors. This team just, like you mentioned, Joel, the vibes are definitely off. Ant-Man has talked about it in a couple post games. They're just not fully locked in like they need to be. Sometimes they have these moments where they lock in a little bit too late in the game, or they lock in when they're down already. This team has not balled in yet, and I think offensively it's still a little clustered. I think Dante being open to trade, I don't know how true that report is. It's fake a little crazy 15 games into the season. Listen, Dante has always been this kind of streaky player. Let my brother get some time to get the heat stroke going, because when he's blazing, it's coming. It's going to be there. You're going to feel it. It's going to be a lot. So you need to really lock in and let him getting integrated. But I think this Minnesota team, I'm at a 5 because I expected them to be a little bit more competitive, a little bit better. They haven't impressed me too much. And I think right now we're looking at the West. And we've had a couple surprises too. So Denver, they just started to get it going. Dallas just started to get it going. So a lot of these teams that had late, playoff success, they're not all the way. They started a little bit sluggish. So I'm going to give them a little more time. That's why I'm giving them a 5. But I definitely haven't been impressed.
Now, the last team is more so a question on how much you're panicking on a specific player. The panic meter on the Indiana Pacers, which is very well a panic meter on Tyrese Haliburton and how he's been playing. Logan and Carson, I know you guys are very big Haliburton fans.
The both?
They are. You guys are right here. You're looking at Haliburton haters and Drew.
We're in the Lions' den. We're in the Lions' den right now.
Yes. How do you guys feel about the Pacers and specifically Tyrese and where that panic meter is at?
Before y'all go, respectfully, don't put Drew with me. This is my war. I am the Holly hater. This is me alone here. I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say. I'm so excited.
I have called him the most overrated player in basketball.
Oh my God. I mean, we don't know. He has. I can't argue. The numbers don't lie. Men and women do. Numbers don't lie, man. Me and Carson opened the show today talking about Haliburton because it arguably is the biggest story in basketball right now. And me and him reached the same conclusion. We don't think the guy's healthy right now. We think that there's something lingering with Haliburton and his injuries. I'll give you guys
watch how he's moving. Drew,
they're not buying that explanation.
I will give y'all Carson's quote today from the show because I thought he said it really well. If he is healthy, this is the biggest regression we've ever seen.
Oh, shocking. Let me take this one.
Can I say something before you go, Carson? Why I laugh? I'm not laughing at you guys. Hands to God, I love you guys like brothers. I'm laughing because he's been hurt since January of this year.
But here's the thing. So I think that there are some fallacies that get spread about Hallie. I think that there are some people who go out there and say he had a Linsanity run last year, okay? Did he have an unbelievably hot pull-up shooting run, scoring run for the first 30-plus games that he wasn't going to be able to replicate? Yes. And then did he struggle down the home stretch of the regular season coming back from the hamstring injury? Yes. Did he struggle in the playoffs? No. I think that that's where people misconstrue things. He let out the best offense in the playoff field. He was doing his thing. He was extremely efficient. And this is what I always talk about Hallie. The box score underestimates his impact because his greatest strength is that he is a brilliant decision maker. He creates an advantage. Then what does he do? He hits that skip pass. He puts the defense in rotation.
Jumps in the air high.
Jumps in the air sometimes, does some cool, some goofy, but it's extremely effective. It leads to great team offense. That's what he is. You see it in the half court, pick and roll, ridiculously efficient, incredible decision maker. You see it in transition. He's the best hit-ahead passer in basketball. He leads out the best up-tempo offense in basketball. So those are all things that he did after people said that he had fallen off. That's what he did in the postseason, right? And you can call it a Mickey Mouse Eastern Conference Finals run because, listen, it wasn't a full strength East. It wasn't a healthy East. I would agree with that. But that doesn't discount that they were putting forth the best offense in the playoff field and that Tyrese Haliburton was the driving factor for that. So if you look at that player after the hamstring injury and think that's the player you're looking at right now, or that like it's even within the reasonable realm of possibility that that is the same dude and he's still healthy and like there's nothing weird going on, that's crazy to me. Because this is a dude who doesn't look like he belongs on a basketball court right now, doesn't look comfortable doing anything. And like, yeah, I guess it's possible that he's healthy. And like Logan said, that'd be the craziest fall off I've ever seen from a basketball player who should be in the heart of their prime. Not even maybe at his prime yet. The guy's 24 years old. But it's not just like the lack of confidence on ball, right? It's not just the lack of burst on ball. You watch him get back in transition. The dude can't change direction right now. You watch him guard in space. Like, he looks hobbled, bro. He doesn't look right. And I'm not saying that there isn't weird shit going on. I'm not saying that this is a full excuse because he's been awful. I mean, even for playing hurt, he's been really bad. But I absolutely think that's part of the equation. I think that's part of the explanation because I've watched a lot of Tyrese Haliburton basketball. He's had slumps, right? Last year, he had a slump. I've never seen him look this physically uncomfortable on a basketball court. And that leads into emotional discomfort where he doesn't look confident doing anything out there. So the Pacers have been worse with him on the floor. He's been terrible. He's been extremely inefficient. He hasn't produced. I'm not discounting any of that. I'm just saying I don't think that the dude is right. And I still believe fundamentally in his skill set. I believe in the way that he plays basketball. I think he leads to great team offense. So I'm worried, no doubt, but I don't think that this is who Tyrese Haliburton is. So I think things are going to look better. I don't know when, and I don't know what's going on because like the Pacers are saying he isn't hurt. I don't know why they'd be doing that. I don't know why he'd still be on the court, but I'm just telling you what I'm seeing, what I believe to be true in terms of the future outlook. It's concerning. Obviously, Hallie is not the player he was in December of last year, but do I think he is much better than the player that he is right now at this moment? Yes, I do.
Emotional discomfort.
That killed me. It killed me.
That's a new one.
He is, bro. He can't move.
Discomfort's hilarious.
I like his confidence. I like his confidence level.
Carson and Logan, like Drew mentioned, love you guys like a brother. You have given me 3 new excuses for Haliburton for why he's playing like shit. And every single month, there's something new. It's something new. It's now emotional discomfort.
No. Okay.
on Twitter, the bed
Don't overreact
stuff.
to that. I'm saying, no, I haven't mentioned the bet.
What about the home road splits? I didn't know. Is there any insight there?
Bro, I think he's hurt. I think he is hurt. And I think if you guys watch him move on the basketball court and don't think he's hurt.
That's what it is. He needs his Bobopedic.
Maybe, bro. Maybe that is the case. I don't know. I honestly don't think the home road thing is that real. I think he just had a couple good home games. I think he sucked. I think he sucked this whole year.
Yeah,
I mean, he's been fine at home.
But Carson actually was good. What are the 3 excuses though?
Yeah, because I think it all stems from health.
Look, I'm gonna put the analysis hat on. Let's get the trolling hat off. It wasn't 3. I'm gonna put the analysis hat on. Listen, I'm at a 7, probably an 8. I'll go 8.4 with the Indiana Pacers because I think Hallie. I don't think they're on the same page in terms of the medical team and Haliburton. I don't think they're on the same page because if he is hurt, then fine. We understand that. They admitted he was hurt last year. We know he was kind of playing for that contract. He still wanted to get that money. Listen, I respect that. That's understandable. But you played in the playoffs. He was really good. You played in the Olympics. There was no communication on you being injured and anything like that.
There was no PT for him.
He had a leg. He had a leg thing. He had a leg thing, but it came out after.
He also didn't play much.
That's why he didn't play. That's why.
Listen, out there for the vibes in Olympics, it was lit. I get it. I respect the hell out of it. He kept it 100. He said, I'm just like the kid that don't do nothing on the project, and we got an A. And I respect that. So now this year comes in, you're injured, but the like you mentioned, Carson, the medical staff is saying he's not injured. What's going on? What's the situation? If he is injured and it is a serious back injuries are something you cannot play with. Sit him out, give him some time to rest. If it's not an injury, and this is where the trolling hat comes back on, he is fucking garbage.
Then it's a 10. Then the panic meter is a 10.
Shit, I am at a 10, and that is embarrassing because the way he looks, I think outside of that Knicks game, I don't think he's had a good game since. It's been really, really bad. And I think the passing's been there. The playmaking, the offense is just that scoring, that same vibes you're getting, the same juice he provides to that offense. The 3-point shooting, it's just the mismatch against big men. Everything just seems off with this Pacers team. And then on top of that, the Pacers lost both of their bigs, to season-end injuries, specifically Isaiah Jackson, because I think he was really good for them. And then this offense, it's just me and Carson was talking about this yesterday. Defensively, they're not a serious team to me in the grand scheme of things. I know they can put these stretches together, but they just don't have the guys. They don't have that elite top end defender. They don't have even a great to good. Miles Turner is okay as a shot blocker, but for his full season, I don't like him as your rim protector, somebody that can anchor your defense. I think they rely too much on these offensive guards that can't really defend too much, and they're a little bit small in that department. This team is just not serious defensively, and if the hub of your offense is dealing with these nagging injuries, it's going to be really tough for this Pacers team to keep it in motion, keep it good. Now, it's really simple. Get a left hand. I mean, I know we like to joke around and have fun with this shit, but get a bag, man. When you get a bag, this shit looks a lot different, man. You
can't move, bro.
I get it. He could jump in the fucking air, Logan. If he can jump in the fucking air.
And he's taking dumbass floaters. I agree, man. I don't get it.
Bro, okay, listen. You're talking about his left. He's a right-hand dominant player, but that didn't stop him from having that hasn't stopped him from having multiple all-star seasons, right? That's not the problem. The problem isn't that his left hand hasn't improved. The problem is that his jumper is completely off and his mobility, his burst is gone right now. It's not there. And I do think that there's a psychological impact from that too. But I'm with you on all the big picture stuff. Like you said, we talked about this. The Pacers were not at all in good position to replicate an Eastern Conference Finals run because their defense sucks. But if they're going to address that, if they're going to put the dudes around Hallie that could make them a contender, the dudes around Hallie and Siakam, the athletes on the wings, probably improving defensively at center, that's the stuff that could take them up a notch to where they would be a serious playoff team. But that all is contingent upon Hallie being the dude that we have seen. right? Not the dude we saw in December, the dude we saw last year overall. And he's not that right now.
Jarris Walker's looking like a miss. Like, he hasn't been able to crack any rotation.
He's played
minutes.
solid recently.
Hold up, bro. Hold up. We're not going to slander my boy Jarris.
No, I love Jarris. I love Jarris. Logan, trust me.
Jarris is going to be nice. Jarris is going to be nice.
He's been struggling to crack the rotation. He has been getting minutes lately. Like, this team has a lot of young players. Like, this Pacers team, it's, they traded 3 firsts for Siakam. I'm not saying Siakam is the problem or nothing like that, but there's really no insane, like, there's no avenue for them to truly, take advantage of this middling East at the moment. If I can say it.
As long as Haliburton is injured, then no.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. He makes everything go. He's the only reason.
I mean, even if he's healthy, though, what are they? The 4th best team?
Listen, but if Boston could play Cleveland, and then maybe you could get a favorable matchup against, I would probably still take New York, but at least there's the path
Orlando's
Boston,
there.
Cleveland, Knicks, Orlando are all easily clear. Philly still has a higher ceiling, bro. They suck right now, but they're not in a great spot. But Hallie obviously needs to be better.
I think the best thing you said more than anything was psychological, because there's constant reports saying that he's not injured. And we could talk about the mobility. He doesn't look like he has that same burst. But what I think it comes down to more than anything right now, he's in an extremely bad, horrific slump. His claim to fame in the NBA was being this overly efficient basketball player, not just as a passer, because even still, and right now, that's his best attribute by far, his playmaking. He still kept the turnovers down. He's that natural playmaker that we know. But what was also his claim to fame was how efficient he was as a scorer. With his limited opportunity, he was giving you around 29. I'm not even talking about November. Forget about that. I'm talking about his first stint with the Pacers when, before he got injured, they were a fringe playoff play-in team, and he was a 50-40 guy with limited opportunity, limited attempts, because he was facilitating but taking smart shots. His form, his fundamentals, his mechanics are off. And I think that it is more psychological than anything, more so than being injured. That's kind of where I'm at, especially when the team constantly says he's not injured, because I think that they would be doing him a favor. The media team would be doing him a favor by saying, yeah, he's trying to grind it out. He's trying to play through injury. He's trying to be the team leader that we need, because they know that he's here. He's the one that makes us go. Now, Indiana understands that, because they saw what he was capable of in November, in December, so much so that they traded away 3 first-round picks for Pascal Siakam, even though that there was a minor chance that he may not even sign back with the Indiana Pacers, because he had said, I want to stay with Toronto. I want my contract. But the front office believed in the future and the ceiling of Tyrese Haliburton so much that they decided to take that swing. And with Tyrese playing the way that he's played so far to start this season, my panic meter for Tyrese is at a firm 7.58. I'm giving him that grace period that it is November, that you cannot shoot 38 and 26 this long. There's no way, especially for what you've shown us in your career. You should get back to your median that is around 18 points, that is around 47, 48% from the field. That's what I'm expecting. But you need to figure it out, because you have been placed, whether it's fair or not, you've been deemed the face of the franchise, the future of the franchise, and you need to start playing that way. He simply hasn't.
So, gun to y'all's heads.
Go ahead, Logan.
Is it fool's gold? Do y'all just not? Y'all think this is more the real Tyrese Haliburton? Because
I don't think 38% is Tyrese. I don't think that's him.
Because what he was doing last season was like one of the best guards in the NBA. I don't know if he's going to get back to that level.
I still think he's that guy. That's what I'm saying is, like, we've seen, you're talking about the large sample size that we've gotten from Haliburton. That's the player that I know and love.
Which Haliburton? The playoff Haliburton or no?
November Hallie is a myth, right? Because that guy, you're always going to have. Yeah. You're always going to have pull up when your shot diet is so tough, like Haliburton's. You're going to have stretches where you hit all the shots and you're averaging 25 a night. I think Hallie is a 20 in 12 consistent guy. That is the Haliburton that I know. And so that's what I'm asking you guys is, do you think we got bamboozled? Is this the real Tyrese Haliburton, a inefficient, tough shot guy that is overrated as a playmaker? I tend to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm just trying to figure out where he belongs in the mix.
Basically, is Haliburton an all-star, all-NBA player? That's what it is.
He's not this. Well, this isn't all-star. This isn't obviously not all-NBA. This is
barely. This is worse. Yeah.
Bad.
So like the low end isn't all-star. The low end is like average starter. I mean, this is bad. This is below average starter. He can't hit anything. Like he's shooting under 30% right now. I just don't understand. Like I get it because he doesn't look 100%, right? Like I get that. He doesn't look like, not that he's a super athletic guy, but you could tell that he doesn't look like the same guy from last season. With that being said, I don't understand why the Pacers would hide it. I don't understand why the Pacers wouldn't say, Hallie's banged up. He has this nagging back injury. We're going to shut him down for 4 to 5 weeks because this is your franchise player. This is the player you have gone all in on to build around. And Mickey Mouse or not, you went to an ECF last season. So he showed you, and listen, front offices are far more delusional than fans are, especially fans that aren't a fan of the team. Like none of us are Pacers fans. I think we understand what the Pacers are. Front offices, especially when you go on an ECF run or you win some meaningless games down the stretch or your first or second round pick goes hot for the last 2 weeks of the season, you buy in and you get a little delusional. So the Pacers have to be saying to themselves, we saw this guy who was relatively healthy at the end of last season. We went to the ECF, and hell, we gave Boston the toughest fight out of everybody in the playoffs. Are we going to be able to replicate that year after year? I don't know. The East still has some teams that are on our level, if not better. But what do you gain out of hiding injuries from your star player, and not only hiding injuries, but he's playing poorly? If Haliburton was injured, but he's giving you like 25 and 12 a night, like you were talking about, and he was looking like Haliburton, it's like, all right, you want to get some good positioning in the East. Maybe we could find some time around the All-Star break to shut him down for a couple weeks. But to do it in November, I just don't understand why the Pacers would try to hide something.
I don't disagree. The only explanation that I can think of is that like Hallie is just a dude who is weirdly committed to playing through stuff, because we did see that last year after the hamstring. Like, I don't know, that's weird. All I know is, Drew, I sent you a video. I saw.
Yeah.
Is that a healthy basketball player?
More than anything, there's one to me that
no. I'll take a yes or no answer. Does that look like a healthy? And that's not with the ball in his hands.
Yeah,
these are defense. These are transition clips.
That's why there was a part of me that felt like it looked lazy. It looked lazy.
Here, I'll drop it in the chat right here.
That was just crazy. Like you could just add it to the video right here.
No, that's why I was here looking at my phone watching the video. I watched it a couple of times just to be honest. There was part of me that felt it was lazy. There was a part of me that also felt like that little static shuffle that he had. I can see what you're talking about.
He's moving like a hermit crab, man.
Yeah, he looks like he can't change direction in space. He looks hobbled. So that's where I'm just like, I can't come up with a good explanation
though,
why they wouldn't be open about it.
To be that kind of hobbled, that young.
You're hurt. I mean, if he is that hobbled, if that's healthy Hallie, bro, it's over.
I mean, that's what happened to Ben Simmons.
But I don't think that that's the case.
Ben Simmons had the back injury when he first started playing with the Nets, and he looked bad. So Kaylin Cooper, I know her. She does some good stuff with the Pacers. Basically, she put in this thread that he had 7 total drives against the Bulls, and the Pacers didn't score any of them. But last season, including the playoffs, there were 86 players who tallied at least 500 drives. Among them, Tyrese ranked second in points per chance on direct drives, only trailing Luka. So this is somebody that, he is an elite offensive engine that doesn't look anywhere near that. I'm noticing a trend with the Pacers, and I hope this isn't the case because I love Tyrese Haliburton. But Paul George, franchise star, top of the world, goes toe-to-toe with LeBron and the Heat in the Eastern Conference Finals. That summer in the Olympics, he breaks his leg. He gets traded. You get Victor Oladipo. He becomes a franchise star, all-NBA player. He tears his ACL. Now with Tyrese Haliburton, he becomes one of the better guards in the league, and it looks like he is now dealing with some health issues. We're kind of seeing like the third time around now with the Pacers, a franchise cornerstone is injured, and Tyrese's is not as serious, at least at the moment that we know of Victor Oladipo's and Paul George's, but it kind of feels like a similar trend, and it feels like Patriots fans are dealing with this all over again with Tyrese.
Logan, to answer your question, I think what I expect is around the 20 and 12 range, 50 and 40. I think I expect him to be a top 20, between the 20 and 30 range. The league is super, super talented. I think there's years where he looks like a top 15 player, in the league. There's definitely years he can do that. But just right now, I mean, like I mentioned, why are they hiding? I'm just so confused at this whole situation. Like, and then he's wincing. I saw the video. He does look like he's wincing. And then you mentioned that stat last year. That stat is odd to me because dealing with a hamstring and then still going to the rim is tough. A hamstring injury is also another one that's lingering. That's a bothersome. So if it is his back, and I think a back injury is just as bad as a broken leg, because back injuries are that's your whole vibe right there. So if it is his back, and I saw some other report that he's every time he's on the bench he's sitting with the heating pads and he's all suited up to get back in the game. Listen, as an organization, you have to protect your star. You have to protect the guy you just gave a max contract to. And if he is dealing with a back injury, and this is like all jokes aside, I don't want to lose another star to nailing injuries. We already lost Ben Simmons, not lost him, but Ben Simmons has those lingering back injuries. Even Steve Kerr. Yeah, Steve Kerr. Oh God, Steve Kerr, coach. He was dealing with those back injuries. He couldn't even coach, and that's just standing on the sideline, coaching, sometimes sitting. He couldn't even coach for the Warriors. We had Michael Porter Jr. literally miss, like he lost out on the best, like his prime. Like he had to get relegated to a role player because his back was so messed up. So I hope that doesn't happen to Haliburton. I hope they do get that figured out at whatever they do with the Indiana Pacers.
Joel, you mentioned that drive stat, which I think is a good number, but just to speak to what you were saying, Riv, he was driving less after the hamstring. Like I remember looking at the numbers last year, his drive frequency went down. This year, bro, the percentage of his shots coming inside 3 feet, right? So right at the rim, it's down from 16% last year to 9% this year. 9% is not a number that any star NBA guard ever puts forth. So like when you're that uncomfortable trying to get a step on people, that to me is telling. And it's crazy, Riv, hearing you talk about him, like you talk about yourself as a Hallie hater. I talk about myself. I'm somebody who believes in Hallie, likes him. It doesn't sound like we're far apart at all. I mean, you're talking about seeing him as like 20 to 30. Yeah. I mean, last year I would have said he's probably right around the 20th best player in the NBA. I wouldn't have gone higher than that. So we'll see. We'll see how this all plays out. But it's a super, super weird situation at the least. Like it's very strange.
And now to end off the show, NFL Week 12 predictions. We're going to go around and give our predictions, starting with you, Riv, then Carson, then Logan, then Dehls, and Drew.
I'm glad you set the president and the black man starts.
Yes.
Surprised didn't make him go last. That's what he's known for.
Yeah.
NFL Week 12 predictions, Titans versus Texans.
I am going with the Texans. CJ Stroud bounce back game, 350. Nico Collins, big 150 game. Okay, Carson.
Oh, sorry. I was up next. I got lost in Riv's eyes. I'm going to go with the Texans too. I don't know if it's a big bounce back explosive game just because I think the Titans defense is solid, but I also think that they have zero offensive firepower. So definitely Houston.
Yeah, I'm also going to take Houston. Tennessee is a weirdly, they're a good team with just – they have Will Levis and Mason Rudolph. They just have bad QB play.
Steeler legend.
Hey, shout out Mason. He gave me some.
Would you consider them a good bad team?
Yeah, I think they're a good bad team. I felt that way about Tennessee all year long, and Houston has a glaring hole with the interior of their offensive line, and Tennessee has a good defensive line. So honestly – I don't think the Texans are that good. I think the Titans are kind of underrated. I could see a weird upset in the AFC South, but I'll take Houston just because I'm not betting against CJ.
I'm taking Houston too. Will Levis has been better since returning. I'm not buying into anything. Don't think he's a franchise quarterback, but he's been one interception over the last 2 games. I don't know if Will Levis can say that about a lot of other stretches in his career, but I got Houston in this game.
I'll say this, the upset with the Browns over the Steelers is kind of what's in my head here because Houston hasn't been playing that great of football, even though they did just come off a pretty good win against Dallas. There's just a piece of me that feels like in division, something nasty can happen. But I'm going to play it safe because Houston is the better team. I will be so upset at myself if this is one I get wrong, but I'm going to take Houston.
I'm going with the Texans. Next game up, the Vikings versus Bears.
Give me Minnesota and Jet.
I'm going to take Minnesota too. Obviously, I thought that the Bears offense looked better last week, even though they couldn't get a win. But I think a very blitz-heavy defense and a defense that is so great stopping the run, which has been really pivotal to getting Chicago's offense going when they can't run the ball, kind of everything shuts down. And Caleb has struggled some processing quickly against the blitz. I think it's tough. And I think Minnesota is really good, so I'll take the Vikings.
Yeah, Bears are cursed and they're coached by Matt Eberflus. I'll take the Vikings.
Yeah, I'm taking the Vikings too. Chicago, it looked better though. Caleb looked so much more comfortable. He was moving, using his legs some more too. DJ Moore got involved. Rome Odunze got involved. So encouraging things, but going up against Minnesota, that's a tough task.
Aaron Jones hasn't seen 50% of snaps in the last 2 weeks. The weak point for Chicago is their rush defense. Joel, you've highlighted that a few times over the last couple of weeks. However, I look at this matchup and understand I haven't seen Minnesota, although they did put up a pretty good performance last week. I haven't seen Minnesota be a consistently great offense for a few weeks now. Chicago Bears secondary is one of the best. Their pass defense is one of the best in the league. I'm going with the home team. I'm taking Chicago here to upset. I think that we saw their offense perform the best that it's performed over the last span of 4 weeks. We saw what Caleb was able to do as a rusher. I think that's what intrigues me the most about this offense moving forward, a little bit more trusting and free flowing to allow him to play to his strengths. I think that's what's allowing me to be swayed here. And I also think that we'll see the weakness for Minnesota's defense. Carson, you're 100% right. They're going to get after him. They're going to blitz him. But I think that the weakness for Minnesota is their secondary, and I think we see a bounce-back performance for the Bears. I'm going to take them with the upset.
The Bears almost beat the Packers last week, so I could see the Bears upsetting the Vikings, but I think this is going to be a good Sam game. Even though this year's been hard to trust them, I trust Brian Flores still, and I have to see if what Thomas Brown did on offense is going to stick in another week. And also the Packers defense, success rate-wise, they're one of the worst defenses in the NFL. EPA per play-wise, it's up there because they get a lot of turnovers, but their defense to me is not as good as Minnesota's. I'm going to go with the Vikings.
Can I share this real quick? I apologize. I know this is supposed to be a quick segment, but in weeks 1 through 10, he had an ADOT of 8.6. Talking about Caleb Williams, he had a time to throw of 2.7. Passing on his first read was 61% of pass plays. In week 11, ADOT is 6.7. Average time to throw is 2.21, eighth fastest, and passing on his first read 87% of the times. And then, of course, he was very mobile. So the game plan was get the ball out quickly, get the ball into your playmakers' hands. And with going up against Minnesota, you're going to need to do that.
Cowboys versus the Commanders.
I am easily going with the Commanders in this one. Bounce back game for them.
Clean sweep, I'm assuming, Commanders?
Yeah.
Will we get Trey Lance some snaps? That's all I asked for.
Is Daniel Jones going to be a Cowboy?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Trey Lance is better,
I would love
Trey
that.
Lance is better.
Man, the Cowboys made it really close against the Texans for a large part of that game. The Commanders kind of collapsing in the second half of the season. Cliff Kingsbury special. Going with the Dallas Cowboys and Cooper Rush, no Marshawn Lattimore. I'm going with the Commanders. I'm going with Jaden Daniels. I think this is a bounce back game. I think
you guys have to be new here. This is what he does. He baits. No matter.
Last week was more about the Texans to me than the Cowboys. That Texans team.
I agree. The Cowboys don't do anything as a football team well right now.
Right.
They've never been good this whole year at anything.
Next game.
They have that back. Now they have Cooper Rush.
Patriots versus Dolphins.
I am going with the Miami Dolphins here.
I'm going to take the Dolphins as well. I think that the offenses look pretty good with Tua back in there. Damn, though. I love me a little Drake May, actually. I love me a little Drake May. I'm slipping. I'm going to bet on the Patriots defense and Drake May, and I'll pick an upset here.
There we go.
Sorry, Drew.
Drake May. Do you know how many times Tua has lost to the Dolphins in his career? Do you know?
How many times did Tua lost to the Dolphins?
He's never lost to the Dolphins.
He's never lost to the Dolphins. I'm right there. How many times he's lost to the Patriots?
How many times has he lost a Dolphins game? That's a different
question.
How many times did he play Drake May?
Exactly. How much better is Drake May than Tua Tagovailoa? A lot. Give me the pads.
Oh, damn. Listen, the Patriots have been in close games since Drake May took over. They have not lost.
Drake May's great. Drake May is great, bro.
He is.
He's elite. Drake May's elite. He's better than Tua.
We just throw around better than Tua like it's
well, Tua stinks.
It's nothing. Tua stinks. Oh my God. The Steelers would kill. They would kill to have him
Bro, I
be your
have Mr.
quarterback.
Unlimited, bro.
Oh, yeah, enjoy that. Enjoy that.
This year's
Enjoy
Russell
that.
Wilson
You
and
just
Tua.
did that
And I
stage.
got Justin Fields, bro. I got 2 QBs better than Tua. Come
And that's where your
on.
team is doomed. The second I seen Justin Fields step onto the field, I should have known y'all were losing because no team wins with 2 quarterbacks. That being said, they scored on 60% of their drives since Tua's been back from concussion. They've been moving different. You think for a second I'm going to take Drake May over Tua in 2024, 2025, maybe moving forward, who knows? That guy Drake May's special.
He knows.
He's mad good. But right now, come on. Give me the tribal chief Uno, King Oos. Give me the Dolphins, boy.
Dehls, you picked the Dolphins too, correct?
Yep.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. I didn't know if you did or not. I'm going with the Dolphins too to beat the Patriots. I feel like they're going to go on a run here, try to get themselves back in the hunt. Will they make the playoffs? Probably not. They dig themselves in a pretty deep hole, but I think they'll give themselves a chance. Chiefs versus Panthers. This is a clean sweep. KC all the way around.
Hear me out. Hear me out.
Yep.
I can hear and I can smell an upset looming. I think the Chiefs will win. I'll tell you what. I made a vow every week to take Kansas City. Week 1 thing. It's just something I have to do. I won't be surprised if the Panthers win this game. I can see it happening just because Kansas City just makes every game close. They really don't blow anybody out. They're coming off a loss against Buffalo. They're going to want to get back in the win column. But off a bye week, Bryce been playing a lot better football.
I'd be surprised if
I'll
this
go
wasn't
flip.
a blowout.
I agree, Joel.
Yeah.
I think this is the first blowout win of
I
the
think
year.
the
for the
Chiefs
Chiefs.
are
I think they
the
lock in.
Yeah, bro's
All right.
nuts. The Chiefs are
Yo,
gonna whip
also,
their ass.
Carson, let me give you your flowers. One of the best takes I heard this offseason was the Chiefs having their best regular season. And for a second, I thought they were going to go undefeated. And every single time they won, I thought of you.
Oh, that's so kind. And who beat them? My Buffalo Bills, baby. That's how we do.
It was almost my Broncos, man.
I think of you when I'm drunk, bro.
Hot.
So real.
So
It's
clean sweep
mutual.
Chiefs. Everybody's going with Chiefs.
Yes.
KC.
Next game, Buccaneers versus the Giants.
I am going with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're going to bounce back into the play. I really hope they take that spot from Atlanta because I just don't think Atlanta's good. And not that Tampa Bay's way better. They're just more fun to watch. So give
Are
me
they?
Tampa Bay. Yeah, I like Tampa Bay's offense. I like watching Baker. I do.
Okay.
Baker's impressive, bro. Like the results that he's been able to put forth without Evans and Godwin, like that's been impressive to me. I do think you're going to be dealing with kind of a ferocious pass rush, but like that's kind of it. I don't believe in the Giants offense whatsoever. So this is close, but I'm going to go Tampa.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a really close game down to the wire just because I feel like the Giants are going to have that weird kind of we moved on from a liability kind of fired up. Like we let Daniel Jones go. Now we're going to be a little, I think they're going to play with
It's
some
like Garner
passion in this
Minshew, man.
game.
Huh?
Go ahead.
Yeah, that being said, I'm going to take the Bucks, and I think the Bucks are underselling this Evans injury a little bit. I think Godwin and Evans. I don't know if Evans plays the rest of the year. I know that they're like rumoring he's supposed to return. I think that injury is really serious. So I don't like Tampa Bay's long-term prospects, like playoff-wise, but it's the Giants. Give me Baker, man.
I do think Tom DeVito's gonna be able to move the ball. Malik Neighbors might not play.
That's crazy. That's a crazy take.
The Buccaneers defense is terrible.
Yeah.
The Buccaneers defense is god awful. Honestly, the rest of the season, I think Tom DeVito could kind of move the ball some because their schedule is super late. But the Bucks are going to win this game.
There's a piece of me that does want to take the Giants, but I also did vow every single week to not take them. That being said, give me the Buccaneers.
I think having Tommy DeVito start over Drew Lock was a clear, we're tanking. We want to get a higher pick in the draft move. I'm going to go with the Buccaneers. Lions versus Colts.
Oh, this should be a clean sweep. Detroit.
Yeah, Lions offense will not stop in this game.
I will say, Joel, we've kind of highlighted over these last couple of weeks, the Colts defense has performed a lot better and then kind of allowed the Jets in the second half to kind of put up points. Weirdly, that kind of bothered me. I'm interested to see how AR looks. I'm obviously going to take the Lions, but the Colts find a way to make every game close.
Yeah, I'm taking the Lions here. I think Anthony Richardson, I'm hoping he improved on, when he had his little sit down timeout. I feel like it's kind of a good way to put it. It's like, come on, can't call your stuff out there. But I also I love Anthony Richardson. Does sitting for a couple weeks just make you accurate? I don't know. And this is a tough This is a really tough defense. So I got the Lions here. But again, I agree, Drew. I want to see what AR's got. If he can do it against Detroit now we could really start talking about him being back.
I got the Lions, but I think this is going to be a game where the Colts surprise a lot of people. I think they're going to make it pretty competitive, and I do think Richardson is going to have another really good game. And I think this second half of the season, he's going to start balling out. I just have that feeling in Richardson. So I'm going with the Lions either way.
I think it'll be up and down with AR, but last week was awesome. But,
going up against the Jets, Carson. Who's surprised?
They fucking suck.
Oh, man.
You're a Bulls fan.
You guys do this every show. This should be like
I do remember. Can I put Joel on blast real quick? I'm going to put him on blast real quick. I remember when we had you on for AFC's preview, you asked me,
I love this.
if I were not a Bills fan and if I just swapped the rosters with the Jets, who would I take to win the division? And I said, well, as long as the Bills have Josh Allen at quarterback, I'm taking the Buffalo Bills.
And
I was right.
Listen, I think that if the Jets had some coaching, maybe things look different here. But last week was one of my biggest hate watches for the Jets, man. Watching Richardson just tear us apart. Man, it looked amazing. Honestly,
Logan,
I loved every minute of it.
Logan and Carson, I don't know if you saw this one episode we had, but we were doing, our annual scheduling, like schedule predictions, and of course we had Joel and Dehls do the Jets, and Joel, we were doing it. We were going through the wins, and I was told 14 wins. I was told 14 wins by the Jets.
You're lying.
You know
Rav,
what?
Rav, you know I'm dyslexic, brother. I said 14-3. I meant 3-14.
All right, next game up, the Broncos versus Raiders.
Lock us in, Drew.
2-0 on the Raiders this season, baby.
Denver, baby.
Being serious, there's a part of me that's nervous. The Raiders always give us a tough game. Even the first time we met, it started off weird. And they kind of got into an early lead, and thank God for Pat Surtain and the pick six, because that turned everything around. But we're a much better team now. We should really lay it to them. Give me my Broncos.
Put it right
baby.
in. Jam it in there.
Agreed.
Fucking ram it in there.
Yup.
Yo.
Is this a clean sweep Broncos?
Give me Denver. Yeah.
Yo, Logan, you being a Bo Nix truther only makes me love you passionately more.
Dude. I've been Carson was trying to put Bo Nix in like Will Levis conversations. Man.
And Carson, that's where you're going to have to run my fade next time you're in New York.
I'm ready.
You're going to never, ever disrespect like that ever again.
Get a strip.
With the Mayo Man?
Yeah. Well, listen, I don't like either one of them. I mean, I like Bo more now. Here's what I'll say. Opening month, Bo was god-awful. And that's when I was saying this.
You're a sicko.
I didn't hear what Dell said.
Yeah, it was wicked. Don't worry about it.
Bo's gotten better. I'm still not the highest on his ceiling, but he's definitely gotten better.
Since the start of October.
Oh, here you go.
Talk to him.
That's a man on a mission.
So what, Logan, are you an Oregon fan or something? That's why you like Bo Nix?
No, dude, I made a bet 2 years ago with a guy that I worked with at a pizza place that Bo Nix, I used to bet like tacos. So I bet him like 3 tacos that Bo Nix was not going to be a first round pick. So ironically,
tacos is a metaphor for bricks of cocaine. Go ahead.
I started off being a Bo Nix hater. I like Bo a lot. I think Bo's going to be a really good QB in this league. Like, I don't know about top 10, but I think above league average, like kind of like around Baker or something like that. Like, I think that's very attainable for Bo.
I said coming in, I think his ceiling is Jared Goff. If he can beat Jared Goff, I'm fucking thrilled. And he's better, more mobile than him. That's why he's more mobile than he is.
And Carson traded me Bo Nix in our fantasy league, and that was like low key deal of the century.
I got back Drake May. I don't know.
Bo has been killing it for me this year, bro.
Carson won the trade if he got Drake May.
Not to mention, this was my backup quarterback for his starter.
Bo
Nix has been one of the best fantasy QBs.
That's what I'm saying, bro.
Is this better than
backup for his starter?
Is this Dynasty, Carson, or is this?
No, this is a 32 team league.
Damn.
Okay.
Oh, you
Yeah, it's
finesse.
sick.
You finesse, boy.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, this is a Broncos clean sweep. Cardinals versus Seahawks.
Cardinals.
Do you want me to start, Riv? I have my answer.
I got this. I'm staying true. I'm staying home.
That's right, baby.
First of all, I'm standing on this. I'm going to say this here. The Cardinals are winning the division, man.
Love that.
And being that the Cardinals are going to win the division, it starts this weekend. starts on Sunday. They're taking this one. They're taking Seattle, man. This offense has been blossoming over the last couple weeks. The defense has started to pick it up a little bit, looked a lot better. And I think Kyler Murray is really starting to get into that mode, get into that groove. We can start thinking about, six odds for MVP, but nonetheless, I got Arizona in this one.
I'm pretty conflicted on this one. I feel like these are two gifted offenses, two quarterbacks who I really like a lot, and two defenses that are both pretty incapable of making the other uncomfortable. I just think Arizona's formula is a little easier because they're so balanced and they're so effective running the ball, and Seattle's really struggled to stop the run. So I'm going to go with Arizona because of that. Something in me says this could be a Geno masterclass. Settle down, Riv. Not like that. But
Riv's
I
on
think
top of it right now.
it's easier for Arizona to just have a consistent formula, so I'll take them.
I got Seattle here. This is a tough game, though. Arizona coming off a bye, but Seattle at home. I like Seattle.
I love that, Dehls. I love that so fucking much because I needed another game that we had difference of opinion. I knew this was the 50-50 coin toss.
Are you going with Seattle?
Give me Arizona.
Oh, okay.
Come on. Right now, they're the more complete team. The offensive line for Seattle is weak, and we've seen since week 5. I know Arizona came into the league one of the worst. I love the week 5 precursor. It goes with Bo Nix, and it goes with Arizona. They've gone from one of the worst middle of the pack since then. So give me Arizona. I think they've just been playing a great brand of football. Offensively, they're starting to figure it out. And that secondary, I think that we see Marvin Harrison have a great performance. Dehls, you and I were talking about it on the Fantasy Reaction. Your start of the week, I'm co-signing that. I think he has one of the best performances. I really like what I've been seeing out of them. And with how inconsistent the Niners, with Seattle's defense that we've seen, although it's been mostly because of injury, I really think that Arizona can capitalize. So give me the Cards.
The Seahawks have been terrible at home this year. So I think naturally the ebbs and flows of things means that they're going to win this game at home. The Seahawks defense has been healthier. They just got back Abraham Lucas at right tackle. Their center that started last week had the best center play that the Seahawks have had all season. He was better than Connor Williams.
Didn't snap the ball over any heads.
No, he didn't. It's a good thing. So I think the Seahawks offensive line is coming together a little bit. I think they'll be able to run the ball. And the Cardinals, a lot of their defense has been scheme dependent. They blitz a lot. They've been able to confuse inept offenses that aren't able to pick it up. I don't think Geno is one of those quarterbacks. He makes those defenses pay, and they don't have the corners to keep up with the Seahawks receivers. So I'm going to go with the Seahawks winning at home. 49ers versus Packers.
No Brock Purdy. Give me Green Bay, man.
No Brock, and maybe more significantly, no Nick Bosa. Like, I am not as out on the Niners as some people are, but this would be a really tough game for them to win. So
You're not rocking with Josh Dobbs, man.
Brandon Allen.
I was going to say it's Brandon Allen.
Yeah.
Brandon Allen.
Arkansas legend, bro.
I didn't know that guy was still in the league, man.
Yeah, I'm going with the Packers here. No
What the
Brock
heck
Purdy,
happened to
no
Josh
Nick Bosa.
Dobbs, bro?
Yeah, I'm going with the Packers.
I will say if Purdy was playing, I was going to take the Niners just so I just have that out there. But regardless, no Purdy, that statement really was a waste of 10 seconds. So give me the Packers.
Packers.
Next game up, the Eagles versus Rams.
Here we go.
Fly, fucking Eagles, fly. Listen, man, we're going to go in there, do what we've been doing, lock down that offense. Eagles offense going to play good. Saquon's going to have another offensive player of the year weekend. Give me Philly, man.
I love Matt Stafford, truly do, romantically, but
Passionately.
passionately, enthusiastically, tenderly. But I feel like we've seen some inconsistency with the Rams offense really just over the last couple weeks. And I don't know, the Eagles are just so locked in. They're so ridiculously talented on both sides of the ball. Part of me wants to bet on Stafford, and part of me feels like maybe there's a little bit of an Eagles collapse coming, but I'm going to pick them.
Add him to the list, Riv. Add him to the list.
He's done. Bet on Guantanamo Bay. That's all I'm going to tell you.
He's a beast. He's a beast.
Put me there, bro. I'm getting open.
Yo, that's fire.
Yeah. Saw that on Twitter. We're here. Guantanamo Bay. Yeah.
Yeah, Stafford can go toe-to-toe with anybody, and I hate picking against Stafford, but the Eagles are just playing better ball right now. And, I mean, the Eagles, I think, leaped into my and Carson. I think they're in what,
top
our
three?
top five.
I want to be clear. I didn't mean a season collapse. I meant a in-game collapse.
Yeah, clear yourself. Clear that up.
Yeah.
Thank
The
you.
Eagles have jumped into our top 5 for power rankings, so I'm not going to pick against Philly. They're red hot right now.
It should be 3.
Yeah, I got Philly too. It's going to be a fun game, though. You know, you have Sean McVay going up against Vic Fangio. It's going to be a good one. But, I mean, you got Jalen Hurts on one side. Talk about Matt Stafford go toe-to-toe with everybody. Can you go toe-to-toe with Jalen Hurts? I don't know, man. I don't know.
Keep trying to weasel your way in here, buddy. I get it.
Brother, I think you are in love with Jalen Hurts, and I don't blame you.
That is a handsome, handsome man.
He really is.
Me, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson. Get us in the room.
I don't know if Drew froze again. Did Drew freeze?
No,
or
shout
He
out
was
to you,
just
Dehls.
still-
You spoke just long enough. Give me those Eagles, baby.
Yeah, listen, I think the story of the Eagles for every game they play is going to be about if the team that they're facing can capitalize off their slow, sluggish starts in the first quarter and in the first half in general. I think the Rams are capable of doing that and going up maybe 10-0 to begin the game. I do, but I got the Eagles. I just don't think that they're going to be able to generate a consistent enough pass rush against the Eagles, even though Jared Verse and that entire defensive line is playing with their tails off. But also, like, defensively, the Eagles are just an elite level unit, and the Rams have not been able to run the football at all. So I'm going to go with the Eagles.
Are you going to say that about every game for the Eagles?
It happened against Washington. They started slow.
And they won.
Yeah, but I don't think Washington is as
Happened against
good
Cincinnati, too.
offensively as the Rams
And they
on
won.
a consistent basis.
At this point, we can
Against who?
start off slow. Shit don't matter. We'll win.
Yeah, it's going to matter against teams that are more capable.
Oh, like Green Bay?
Again, like the Lions. If you start so against the Lions, it's going to be difficult to dig yourself out of that
They blew
hole.
a 17-point lead in the NFC Championship
You also
game.
picked the Eagles over the Lions on last show.
No, I do think the Eagles are more talented. I would pick the Eagles, but that's the Eagles' biggest concern right now is
for
that
sure.
they don't start games well at all. So that's the
Imagine they
biggest
did, though.
thing.
That's true.
So if the Rams start this game off hot, I mean, now you're playing in obvious passing down situations. You're not worried about
no
the
problem.
Saquon factor.
But
It
no
makes things
Smitty
easier.
this game. Smitty ain't playing.
Yeah, no
Smitty's
Smitty's
not
low-key
playing.
Dallas Goddard masterclass. Get ready.
So I got the Eagles in this game. Last game of the slate: Ravens versus Chargers.
Upset alert. I'm going with it. I'm
Love it.
taking them. Give me the Chargers on Monday Night Football.
Love that.
I like the way that defense has been playing. Me and Joel have been having this little war with the Steelers and the Chargers, and they're both been playing extremely well. So I think
Chargers
the
are better. They have Justin Herbert.
Yeah, no, they do have the better quarterback. But I
I wonder.
Yeah.
I wonder why is one so much better than the other? Could be one glaring thing, probably, right? Okay.
don't know what you're
This
trying
is
to get at here.
racist as fuck, man.
Yeah, you guys.
What? Okay, give me the Chargers in this one though, for sure. Upset alert.
I'm with it. I'm taking the Chargers as well. I worry a little bit. Logan calls it how he sees it. He calls it out. He's calling a timeout on racism.
Yeah, on hate, bro.
Logan calling out his own people moves me. Moves me.
I'm not sure that he sees Dehls and I as his own people. But anyways,
Talk.
I'm going with the Chargers here. I really like them. I mean, I think Justin Herbert's playing at an unbelievable level. I worry a little bit about that defense getting tested because, like, I don't think they're as good as the numbers because of the schedule they faced in the second half last week was concerning. And that Ravens offense is crazy dynamic. However, I also think that Herbert's going to be able to light up that secondary. So I'm going to take the team whose defense I do trust more. Joel, that was crazy technique to finish off that water. And I think Herbert goes toe-to-toe with Lamar and maybe even outplays him. So I'll take the Chargers.
Ballsy picks from you guys. I like the Chargers a lot. They're in my top 10 for the power rankings this week. But the Steelers are the only team I'm going to consistently pick to beat Baltimore because we got their number. I'm not betting against Lamar and Derrick Henry. You think about everything that went wrong last week. The 3 turnovers, the Tucker 2 missed field goals. Like, it took the Ravens shooting themselves in the foot. And I know the Steelers and the Chargers they're close, but they're different beasts because the Steelers are so comically limited offensively. But I will not bet against Lamar and Derrick Henry. They are the greatest quarterback and rushing tandem ever. I think the Ravens are going to bounce back in a big way. So give me Baltimore.
17 weeks plus the playoffs. I will be here. The Baltimore Ravens.
Yep.
I genuinely thought this week, for whatever reason, you were going to take the Chargers. And there's no whatever reason. You've consistently been here with the Chargers, but you love Baltimore. And this week, so do I. I'm going to take the Baltimore Ravens to win this game. Logan, you hit it right in the head, honestly. The Steelers were able to make the most of the unfortunate situations for the Baltimore Ravens. And even still, it was a very close game. I think they need to bounce back. And I think that what we saw out of the second half of the Chargers is a little bit more realistic of what I expect out of them. And when you're going up against a hungry, motivated Baltimore Ravens, I think that's where things are going to get dicey for them. I think it's going to be a great game. And I get where both you and Carson are at, Riv. But I just think Baltimore needs this one. And I'm going to go with the Ravens.
Just look at what happened. The Steelers lost, which means that this is a perfect opportunity for the Ravens to win and now close that gap and even have potentially an advantage on the Steelers in the division. I feel like that's in the back of their minds. I think it's fair to criticize the Ravens defense. It hasn't been good all year. They've been one of the worst passing defenses all season long. I think Herbert will play well. I think Ladd McConkey is going to be in for a fantastic game.
Mini AB, dude. I love the Ladd McConkey segment y'all did. I said it before the draft. He's mini AB, man. He's white AB. He's white AB, bro.
All the comments are like, oh, how are you taking him over Josh Downs? Oh, my God.
No, I've seen a lot about Khalil Shakir. That's the one that's bothering me. I'm just like, Khalil Shakir's nice, but
Khalil Shakir is awesome. And this is what I'll say about Khalil. Like, he's been one of the very best yards after catch receivers in the NFL. Josh Allen and him are top 3 in
he also doesn't drop the ball.
And he catches the highest percentage of his targets.
Yes. So like Khalil Shakir, I can definitely hear the conversation. I think Ladd, and that's the thing, like if you take those guys over Ladd, that's fine. I just think that Ladd belongs in the conversation with all these receivers, and I don't think it's crazy to take either of them. The point you were making about the Chargers defense, I thought in the first half they played great. I know the schedule has been weak. I do think the Chargers defense is an elite level unit. In the second half, mini collapse there, but also just some throws that only a top 5 quarterback in the league can make that they got beat with. Joe Burrow's that type of quarterback. So is Lamar Jackson. So that's why I'm going to go with the Ravens here. I think the Ravens win. And Monday Night Football, Lamar Jackson has been historically the best quarterback in the history of the NFL on Monday night. So I'm going with Lamar Jackson. And that's going to do it for episode 429 with NerdSesh. We appreciate you guys staying on the show. 3 hour show. You guys thugged it out for us. We really appreciate that.
And I'm sorry. I'm sorry my connection was the worst that it's ever been. I hope that it didn't ruin your shirt
to make up for it.
Yeah, let's get that top off.
Show up.
Drew, you look great when you're not pixelated. That's all that matters. This was super fun. Thank you guys for having us on. Love what you guys do. You guys are honestly the best. So this was very fun. It was good to see you all again.
Yeah, anytime you guys want us on, I'm here to do this. If it's 3 hours, if it's a 24-hour live stream, I'm game, man.
If it's 7-8 minutes, just me and Riv, just let me know.
Whoa, don't leave me out of that. Logan,
Drew, get in there.
Logan, Carson, I love you guys endlessly. Is there anything you guys want to shout out before you guys get out of here, though?
Love you too, man. Just follow us, NerdSesh, everywhere. YouTube, we have all of our full shows. We talk NBA, NFL, do some video breakdowns there. TikTok, Instagram, NerdSesh. You can see clips from the show. We do some graphics sometimes. We do some trivia just for TikTok. But yeah, man, that's it. Shout out you guys.
Don't forget Logan's OnlyFans. Also, the link will be in the description.
That's going to be $800 a month. I'm not going to lie.
Dehls, bro.
You guys can follow us on Twitter at PickAsidePod, on Instagram and TikTok at PickAsidePodcast. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.